Welcome, everyone, to yet another edition of the Irish Breakdown Podcast. I'm here with my man, Trevor. I'm Vince, and it is Wednesday, so that means it's a buy, sell, hold day. And we have quite the list of submissions here to get to, Trevor. And yes, as somebody in the chat so aptly mentioned, Brian is not here today. He is attending his grandmother's funeral, and so I got tapped in, man. No school for me, so let's roll, man. Let's have some fun with this thing, and of course, we'll all be keeping Brian and his family in our prayers and thoughts and everything. And I know he'd want the show to go on, and that's why we're here, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about some Notre Dame football, and we're going to have some fun with this thing. And we've got like 48 slides of questions here, Trevor, and I don't know what any of them say. So that's the fun part for me. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be, let's see what the subscribers have to say. But before we do, Trevor, why don't you tell everybody about our friends over at MyBookie?
Yeah, absolutely. So with Thanksgiving coming right around the corner, and with all the awesome food that we're going to be stuffing our faces with, do not forget to be stuffing your wallets with our friends over at MyBookie, who actually have a bunch of killer promotions going on. So in the Miami Dolphins game versus the Packers, MyBookie is running a promotion boosting the odds for a Devin A. Chain to score the first touchdown in the game. So if he scores first, you cash out big. If he doesn't, for whatever reason, MyBookie is going to give you your money back, so it is a no-sweat bet. Another thing that MyBookie is doing that started on Monday is the MyBookie's Telegram prize pool contest. So the pool starts at $15,000. And grows by $5,000 for every 1,000 new subscribers. All you have to do is join the Telegram channel by December 1st to lock in your share. And if you're already subscribed, you're automatically in, which is awesome. So they are rewarding people who have been with MyBookie already. So the more subscribers, the bigger the winnings. So spread the word and let's make sure that the winnings get as high as possible. Now, another thing that MyBookie's doing, of course, is be sure to enroll in their loyalty rewards program. They're going to reward you for additional cash and extra bonuses just for placing down some bets. And of course, don't forget about MyBookie risk-free Thursdays. There's going to be a lot of awesome football going on Thanksgiving. So outside of stuffing my face, I will be glued to the TV watching football this weekend. And in order to double your deposit bonus, make sure you use promo code IRISH. So if you put in $10, MyBookie is going to reward you with an additional $10. So bet anything, anytime, anywhere with our friends over at MyBookie.
There it is. Couldn't have said it better myself. Trevor, appreciate it very much. And so let's just go, man. Let's just roll with this thing. Let's throw up the questions and switch over our little background. Boom. All right, let's go. I'll lead it off here for us. So from Father David Penny, buy, sell, hold. Lincoln Riley is no longer head coach at Southern Cal before CJ Carr graduates from Notre Dame.
Whew. I will absolutely buy this because I don't know if Lincoln Riley is going to be the head coach at Notre Dame before Riley Leonard graduates from Notre Dame for a multitude of reasons. I mean, he's taken a step back. I guess I would sell this because he would be let go before. But
yeah.
I'm buying the premise that he's going to no longer be the head coach at Southern California. I just think it's going to be significantly earlier than before CJ Carr graduates. He's regressed every year that he's been the head coach. And this year has been really tough. And I think his ultimate journey, I think, is he's trying to get to the NFL. So I sell that it's going to be before CJ Carr graduates just because I think that's going to be way too long. I think it happens a lot sooner.
Yeah, I mean, this is I'm trying to read the exact question here. I buy that he's no longer the head coach at Southern Cal before CJ Carr graduates because that could be any time from tomorrow until 2027, I believe. So yeah, especially look, if Notre Dame does what they're supposed to do on Saturday to USC, it's going to make for a really long offseason for Lincoln Riley because that's 2 games in a row now that Notre Dame has just taken you out to the woodshed and just shown you who was boss. And the year before, you had the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, and they still did that to you. So if they can do that again, I think it makes for a long offseason. I think then he is firmly on the hot seat at that point. And I'm sure he'll dip into the portal and he'll get a bunch of guys and we'll see how that goes. You know, I'm still not a believer that you can remake your team for an extended period of time through the portal. I think it's kind of a one-year fix. And that was definitely true for him in year one. Year two didn't go so hot. Year three didn't go so hot even more, that they had to bench their quarterback, and they got a young kid in there now. And we're going to talk more, obviously, about USC versus Notre Dame specifically, but just a spoiler alert, I think Notre Dame is going to make life very, 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 very difficult for that kid that's playing quarterback for USC. That's going to be a long day for that kid in his home place. So long story short, I just don't think he's going to be consistent enough to maintain his job as the head coach at USC. I just don't see it. So it's a buy for me, for sure. All right, Burnout 85 has a question. Buy, sell, hold. Playing in the first round will be good for this team in order to get more live game reps for the offense and keep them in a rhythm.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I mean, for a multitude of reasons. One, I think if Notre Dame is playing in the first round, they're going to be playing at home in South Bend. And if I'm a team that is going into the first 12-team playoffs, and let's call a spade here, like Notre Dame's postseason in big games has not been spectacular. Right. I mean, if this was the Cheez-It Bowl or the Camping World Bowl or the Citrus Bowl, I'd feel pretty confident, but it's the first round of the first 12-team playoff. So I want Notre Dame to play at home and have as many things going in their favor as much as possible. And I think you said it best, Burnout, at the end, keep them in a rhythm. Notre Dame is a very rhythm-based team. They're a very rhythm-based offense. And I would rather have Notre Dame going into the second round playing, I mean, similar to the graphic that we saw last night against Texas, who has struggled against the ranked opponents that they've played, when we watch Notre Dame hum against SMU in the first round. So, yeah, I'll definitely buy that.
Yeah, I buy it as well. I think you nailed it perfectly when you said that Notre Dame is a rhythm-based offense. I completely agree. They may actually come out potentially a little bit flat, in that first game, because they'll have a 3-week layoff from the end of the USC game until they have to play in the first round. And, I think that they might come out a little bit flat. But then again, with everything that is surrounding this, it's historic. Let's be honest. It's the first 12-team playoff. You get to host the first playoff game in Notre Dame Stadium. I'm hearing words that Notre Dame is earmarked for that Friday night game. So that literally means, if that's the case, that literally means they're in the first playoff game ever that is hosted on a college campus. How can you not be up for that? How can you not be excited for that, regardless of who the opponent is? I mean, at this point, I think we've all kind of said we don't care who the opponent is. You feel good about Notre Dame's chances, especially at home at night in December, in South Bend, all of those different things. I think you feel good about all of that. And, I'm okay with the fact that they kind of don't have to be firing on all cylinders to get off to start the game. You want that to be the case. We hope that's the case. But if it's not, that first game will allow them to kind of get back on track for what will most likely be a more difficult opponent in round two. So I've said it from the first time they announced the 12-team playoff. I love the fact I love where Notre Dame sits within the scheme of the 12-team playoff. The chance to host a game, you still get 3 weeks off. Even conference champ gets 3 weeks off, because they get the bye. I think it fits well for Notre Dame. So I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, a lot of people talk about basically the playoff format. And I understand what they're saying in that, well, if you get the bye, that's one less game that you have to win. It's like, well, not necessarily, because the teams that get the bye have to play in the conference championship game, which is something that Notre Dame does not have to do. Right. So as far as like number of games played, it's the same. The team that I wouldn't want to be is the team that has to play in the conference championship and then lose and then go play in the first round of the playoffs, because that is an additional game. So with Notre Dame, with them being so rhythm based and with them being very, they ride the motivation well. I'll say that. Like, there's a reason Notre Dame has gone on a 9-game win streak and it hasn't been close in any game that they've played, and they're riding that rhythm. So I'm definitely buying this one. I like the idea of playing in the first round, especially if it's going to be the first ever playoff at night in South Bend. Like, sometimes I think I take it for granted because I'm a Notre Dame fan and I have been my entire life, but I couldn't imagine being an opposing team coming into South Bend, one of the hallowed grounds of college football, at night in the first playoff game. I mean, good luck to whoever that team is.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get any serious complaints, about the atmosphere at Notre Dame if that's the case. I think the tickets have been properly priced. I think there's going to be a lot of people in that stadium that really want to be there, really want to be excited for this game. I think it's rare that I'm going to say this, but I think college football got it right when they were setting the ticket prices. You know what I mean? Like, they got it right. And I think the fact that the student tickets are $30, like, that is awesome. That's awesome.
Fantastic.
So the students are going to fill it up like they normally do. I think I heard there's only going to be 5,000, tickets allotted for the visitor. Like, that, it seems low to me, but if that's the case, that's even better, because it's going to be the vast majority. It's an 80,000 seat stadium, right? It means 75,000 Notre Dame fans, 5,000 opposition fans. But I mean, obviously there's going to be more than that, but to start off with, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Go ahead. You hit it.
Yeah. Buy, sell, hold from Seth B 149. The media is pulling out all the tricks to hurt Notre Dame. The latest being Marcus Freeman is looking to the NFL.
Look, that's going to happen. It doesn't have to have Notre Dame attached to it. Look, Al Golden got attached to the North Carolina game. Marcus Freeman's being attached to NFL. Look, if you're a good coach and if your team is successful, your name is going to be attached. I mean, that just, the Florida State coach was attached to the Alabama hiring last year, and he got a huge pay raise. Marcus Freeman's staring right in the face of a contract extension if things continue to go the way they're going. So everybody just needs to relax. I'm going to sell it that the media is pulling out tricks. Is there media that doesn't like Notre Dame? Sure. But I don't think that they are purposely putting Marcus Freeman's name out there. He's the coach of a top 5 team in the country. His name's going to be out there. Like, that's just how it works. So I don't really have a problem with it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to sell it too. It's just not, when you have success at a high level in college, that's just going to happen. To your point, I mean, there's every year that Notre Dame is successful. I mean, think of all the years that we heard about, when Brian Kelly went undefeated in 2012, he might be heading off to the NFL. And then when he went undefeated in 2018, he might be headed off to the NFL. Then he went undefeated in 2020. He might be going to the NFL. Like, it's just I understand where you're coming from here, Seth, because pretty much the clickbait titles of these articles are Marcus Freeman named one of the coaches in the NFL playoff coaching carousel. And then you click on the article and there's like 37 coaches that are listed. And yes, technically Marcus Freeman is one of them.
Right.
He's just the most marquee name. I'm sure he'll get calls, but he's building something really special at Notre Dame. And he sounds like somebody that is extremely bought into what they're building here. So I don't think there's too much to worry about here, Seth.
Yeah. Agreed.
Another buy, sell, hold here from Seth. We are witnessing the beginning of Notre Dame being the blueprint on how to construct and coach a modern college football program.
I think they are one of the blueprints. And so I will buy that sort of because I do think that there are multiple blueprints to winning a national championship. I do think that, right? Because look, I was just, throwing shade, if you will, on what Lincoln Riley's doing at USC or what Curt Cignetti's doing at IU or whatever, right? Well, it only takes 1 year to win a title, right? So you can go out there and you can win a title in 1 year and then be garbage the next year. And so you could build a national championship team using the transfer portal. That's possible, right? Not what I would do personally, and not really the kind of team that I want to root for because my emotions can't handle that roller coaster from a year to year type of situation. And I like to find guys that I can root for multiple years and, things like that are on the team. So I think there are multiple blueprints that could win you a national championship. I think Marcus Freeman is doing a good job of writing a blueprint of a program that wants to build from the high school level first and then fill in some holes through the portal, right? I think that is a blueprint. Will that work for everybody? No, but I think it works really well for Notre Dame. And I think it can be adopted by many schools if they do it correctly. Look, let's call it what it is, right? Notre Dame is still a national recruiting school, that a lot of schools still aren't that. Even the perennially good ones, Ohio State is still primarily a Midwestern draw recruiting base, primarily, right? SEC schools are primarily SEC country recruiters. Do they pull some guys from around the country? Absolutely. But Notre Dame is all over the place, right? They're not just in Chicago like they used to be. They're not just, in like the East Coast like they used to be. I mean, they're literally all over the place. So Notre Dame has some advantages that other schools don't have. I will say that. They also have some disadvantages that other schools don't have. So I do feel like Notre Dame's blueprint, I don't think it will be absolutely copied by other schools, but Marcus Freeman is finding what works at Notre Dame. And I think that is the most important piece to this.
Yeah, I'll buy the fact that it is, just because of how it's worded, I'll buy the fact that it is the beginning of how to construct a blueprint. Like, I think there's a good foundation being laid. I love Marcus Freeman's mindset around the transfer portal. And he's been quoted multiple times by saying, I think you should major in the transfer, or major in high school recruiting, minor in the transfer portal. I love that mindset. You shouldn't build your team around that. But let's look at the facts here, guys. Notre Dame hasn't had a back-to-back returning starter at quarterback since 2019 to 2020 with Ian Book. So there's a lot of things that have to get corrected. And now I understand that, Marcus Freeman inherited, not the strongest recruited quarterback room, when Brian Kelly left, and there were holes that needed to be filled. But before I say that he's constructing a blueprint overall of how to build a modern college football program, I need to see somebody that has been recruited by Notre Dame start at Notre Dame, because I guess technically 3 of the last 5 starting quarterbacks for Notre Dame have all been transfers. Jack Cohn, Sam Hartman, Riley Leonard, and then you had Buckner and Pine in 2022. So for me, I need to see the quarterback turning around a little bit, that situation. Defensively, I would say absolutely. I mean, you look at what the defensive side of the ball is doing, that is a prime example of how you have to build a defense. Yep. You get a couple of supporting roles in the transfer portal, but all of the young guys that you develop are coming in and now playing very key roles in your defense. Look at Leonard Moore, look at Drake Bowen, look at Jaden Osbury, look at Adon Schuler, look at Bryce Young. So all of those things are really exciting. I would say the defense is a little bit farther along than what the offense is, but I'll buy the fact that it is the beginning of it, because we've seen more examples than not of teams trying to build their team completely through the transfer portal and it just not work out completely. So that's where I'm at.
Great. We have a super chat here with the buy, sell, hold. So I'm going to throw that one up here.
Yeah.
There we go from AST12321. Thanks for the super chat. Buy, sell, hold. One of the 3 loss SEC teams will take a multi-score loss in the first round of the playoff, but the SEC narrative still won't change.
That's interesting, because I have to go back. Let me go back through and look and see what 3-loss SEC team would make it.
So here's the thing. Yeah, there's a couple of layers to this thing, right, Trevor? So let's walk through this, because the current 3-loss SEC teams, you got Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina. I mean, unless they win the SEC championship, they're not getting in. I just don't feel like they're getting in. So that part of it I'll sell, because I don't think either one of them get in. Now, are we saying that a Texas-Georgia SEC championship with Georgia losing, do they still get in? Because right now they're in, right? They're the 7th ranked team, I believe, off the top of my head. And if they lose, we're told that it's not going to hurt them from a falling out of the tournament standpoint. So they would be on the road. They would probably be like an 11, maybe a 10, in that neighborhood. So they're going to go on the road. Is that what we're talking about here? Because that I would buy, because the SEC narrative still won't change, regardless of what happens to Georgia. So it's kind of a two-way question here, Trevor. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, outside of Georgia losing in the SEC championship, I don't see it. And there's a good chance that depending on the margin of victory or loss for Georgia, they might just bump them out of the playoffs completely and put Tennessee in.
Possible, yeah.
Because Tennessee is right behind them at the 8 seed, and they only have 2 losses. And I'm pulling up their schedule right now for the rest of their season. And the only game that Tennessee has is at 6-5 Vanderbilt. And
Right.
I know Vandy has had a Cinderella story type season, and they beat Alabama and gave Texas a run for their money. But at the end of the day, they're still 6-5.
Right. Right. I mean, how good is it right now, to be perfectly honest with you? How good is it to be Tennessee? Like,
Oh yeah.
I think they're in the perfect spot. They don't have to play in the championship.
Mhm.
They're just going to coast. Like, obviously they have to beat Vandy. We talked about that. Other than that, they're just going to coast into the playoff without even really having to worry about anything. They're kind of in a similar situation to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
So-
in order for there to be a 3-loss SEC team I think you have to root for Texas A&M to beat Texas. But
Right.
then I still think Texas and Georgia play in the SEC championship game. And then Georgia loses to a 2-loss Texas team. And there's, I'm starting to feel like Charlie Day with his like
I
red
know, right?
strings all over
Seriously.
But AST, thank you for the super chat. But 2, I don't know if there's going to be a 3-loss SEC team in the playoffs. And if there is, it's going to be whoever loses in the SEC championship game. And if they lose bad enough, they might just bump out Georgia and put in Tennessee.
Yeah. I think that's an absolute possibility right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an absolute possibility. Thanks, AST. Appreciate the super chat very, very much. Let's move on to the whoops. Oh, I'm hands off now.
Sorry.
There it is. There it is from Fozzie Brown. Fozzie Brown, buy, sell, hold. The NCAA should try and take back the playoffs, similar to how they did with the March Madness tournament, making the NIT second fiddle.
I guess, are you saying take it out of the power of like the major, like out of the committee?
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, but there is no secondary playoff for football.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to sell it just because I think what the NCAA would have to do is they would have to elect a committee to decide what the playoff rankings are, which is essentially what they have right now. Now, the change that I would like to see is I don't think that there should be any active member a part of or affiliated with any school that's on the committee.
Right.
I think it is absolutely crazy that the active athletic director at Michigan is the chair of the board. I think that's a little weird to me.
Yeah.
I
think it should be retired ADs
Yes.
or, okay, I guess I go to this a lot, but like Condoleezza Rice was on there. She's just a football fan who is a smart lady and, knows her stuff and has yes, she went to Notre Dame. I get that. But she really has no affiliation from I work there. Yeah. I'm in charge of the athletic program. You know what I mean? Like, could there still be some quote unquote corruption if you had retired ADs, then maybe they'd still be loyal, obviously, to their school? Sure. But the active part is what I have the biggest issue with. Because there's plenty of people out there, retired coaches, or coaches that are living off their fired funds or whatever. Like, there are plenty of people out there that could serve on this committee. You need 13 people. There are plenty of people out there that could serve on the committee that are not current athletic directors. And don't tell me, oh, well, when they start talking about my school, I hang my hat on the door and I walk out. Like, okay, great. But what about when they're talking about other schools in your conference? Because there's some bias there too.
Easily.
And the fact that this time last week, there were 4 Big Ten teams in the top 5. Like, are you really like? And again, I'm not saying Ward Manuel is the be all end all. He's not the czar. Like, it is a committee, but he's the one speaking for it. And it just seems a little fishy to me that he's in charge and the Big Ten is getting such love that they are.
Yeah, agreed. Like, some of it might be coincidental, but I reference back to the graphic from last night. You go back and you look and see Ohio State's path to the playoff is they play Arizona State, and then they would play Boise State, and then they would play whoever in the semifinals. And then the first round you got Penn State versus IU. So I think that's a little with Oregon getting a bye. Now, Ohio State and Oregon are very much deserving of their spots.
Agreed.
I'm not trying to claim that they're not, but I think with all the revenue share that goes on between conferences, I think it's a little weird to have an active member of one of those schools being the chairman of the college football playoff committee.
Right.
Because as much as you're going to try to sell me on, there's no bias, I just don't believe you.
Correct.
I just don't. You know what I mean?
Yes. Or make the active athletic director from like Ball State be on the committee. He don't have a dog in the fight. You know what I mean? But he obviously understands the landscape of athletics. That sort of a thing. Like you just can't have a lead dog in the Big Ten. And not saying him specifically, but Michigan, lead dog in the Big Ten. They're the defending national champs, right? You can't have him in there, man, especially being the chair. It just, I don't know. It just doesn't sit well.
Yeah.
Me. I'll just say that.
I mean, it would be like if Notre Dame held a meeting with all the different media outlets that they had, and me, you, and Brian went in there, and we were telling everybody, I mean, we think we're the best, but we're not telling people we're the best. There's no bias. We go in and talk about it objectively. Obviously, you know what I mean?
We would, but yes. I know.
I mean, it's just, even if there's not this stuff going on, there's still just that thought of, okay, so wait a second. You're telling me that the athletic director at the school that just won the national championship is now the chairman of the board, and 3 of the top 4 teams are all Big Ten teams. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. When you just lay it down like facts like that, it's like, especially when you start looking at those resumes. But
yeah,
we'll.
I digress.
Yes, we do.
All righty. Buy, sell, hold from Paul Welch 84. Jeremiah Love has a career day rushing for at least 150 yards, breaking 1,000 yards on the season.
I'm going to sell it because I don't know that he's going to get to 150 because I think they would pull him before he did. Like, he only had 7 carries last week and he had 130 yards, and it was like, yeah, you're done. Do I think Notre Dame can be successful on the ground? I do. I absolutely do against USC. But I also think there's still that 2-headed monster of Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love. And Jeremiah Love, if he was getting 20 touches a game, 20 carries a game, 150 yards, absolutely possible. But that's never going to happen. And it's never going to happen for good reason. That's the other thing. Some people are upset that he's not getting those kinds of carries. He's not getting the love of like the Ashton Gentry kid and, that kind of stuff. Look, Ashton Gentry is not going to be playing football in January. Notre Dame has an opportunity to be playing football in January. Okay. I just feel like they're doing the right thing by not only their team, by limiting touches, but they're also doing right by Jeremiah Love, who doesn't want to touch the ball that much. I mean, that was a conversation that was had with Jeremiah Love's family going into his career at Notre Dame, right? So, I think they're being true to everybody, but they're still going to go until they win. I just don't think they're going to need a 150-yard game from one guy on the ground to win this game. I think that's really more of what it is for me. So I'm going to sell it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an old school game for Notre Dame where you're seeing Riley Leonard with 60 to 70. You're seeing Jadarian Price with 60 to 70. You're seeing Jeremiah Love with 60 to 70.
Right.
Throw Aeneas Williams in there with 40 to 50. Like, this is a game where at the end of the day, one thing I will say is if Jeremiah Love has 150 yards in this game against USC, that final score is going to be astronomical.
Ridiculous.
That is what I will say. But, this is a game where Notre Dame has to pull out all the stops, and it is a win and you're in, and I've been having conversations with some friends about it all week. And I could see this game playing out in multiple different ways. Notre Dame's offense is humming right now. If Mike Denbrock and Marcus Freeman believe that the best way to win this game is to give Jeremiah Love the ball 21 times, then he's going to get the ball 21 times because this is a game where it's not if we lose, we could go to the conference championship or we could hope that somebody else falls out. Like, you have to do whatever you have to win this game and win it convincingly if you want to give yourself a shot to pass up Penn State.
Agreed.
Right? So I think it's going to come down to just how the flow of the game goes. But overall, I'm going to sell it because I think there's going to be multiple contributing factors. And as awesome as it was to watch Jeremiah Love go for, 130 against Virginia and 130 against Army, I don't know if he's going to be able to do the same against USC.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I understand, like, on paper, Army's defense was a better run defense than USC's. But again, the athleticism gap is a little bit different between USC and Army.
Fair. Absolutely fair. And you know what? They played hard last week. This USC team's not checking out.
Nope.
They're going to come after it. So, it's going to be tough to get 150 for one guy. Do I think they can get 150 yards on the ground? Absolutely. I just don't see it for Jeremiah Love.
There's also a good chance as well that, Notre Dame's defense could be giving their offense a short field.
That's a solid point.
because I know we're going to go through and break it down on Friday and probably a little bit more today, but Jaden Mavia against Nebraska was asking to get picked off like 6 times. And Nebraska's secondary wasn't able to capitalize on it. Do you know who secondary I think could? The team with the most turnovers in college football right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a good chance that it could be very similar to last year where Notre Dame, they put up, 41 offensive points, or I guess it would be 24 offensive points or something, because they had like a kick return and a fumble recovery for a touchdown. But they could be playing on a lot of short fields.
Yep.
A lot of short fields.
Yeah,
So.
Completely agree.
Another buy-sell hold from Poe Welch, 84. Notre Dame lands the 6th seed in the playoffs.
That's a buy for me. I've been saying Notre Dame was going to get the 6th seed for about 3 weeks now. I just think it's going to line up that way. And I never would have predicted the chaos that has occurred. I just felt like their resume was good enough to jump those teams regardless. But yeah, these teams are helping out Notre Dame too. And I think we can all agree that Notre Dame probably deserves to be ahead of Penn State at the moment. And they're not. But again, I think a convincing win on Saturday will take care of that. So I originally thought it was going to take to the end of the regular season, and now it just is, and that's fine. But I do think the loser of the Big Ten championship is going to be the 5, and I think Notre Dame is going to be the 6, and I think Penn State will be the 7.
So I will start this off by saying I really, really, really hope you're right. Let me start it out by saying
yeah.
Unfortunately for me, I'm going to sell this because I know, and it's not from a deserving standpoint. Notre Dame should absolutely be the 6th seed, and depending on how bad Ohio State or Oregon loses in the Big Ten championship, I think you could make an argument for 5. I really do, but I think the loser of the Big Ten championship would have to be Ohio State, and it would have to be by a lot, and I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't. But the committee, for whatever reason, loves Penn State. And I stay up every night thinking as to why. And at first it was, wait till, Notre Dame and Penn State have the same common opponent as Purdue. And that happened, and then nothing changed. And then it was, okay, well, Notre Dame has a ranked matchup this weekend. Let's see how they do that. Well, they win by 35 points. Penn State won by 1 point to a 6-4 football team. And that wasn't enough. So I hope that I'm wrong. I just don't see Notre Dame beating USC by a better margin of 33-30 in overtime being enough for the committee to say, okay, now the sample size is big enough. We needed 12 full games to decide that. Unfortunately, I don't see it. I could see them putting Penn State at 6 and then Notre Dame at the 7. But again, like I said, I hope that I'm wrong. I do.
And I want to pull this up here because Joe says the loser of Texas and Georgia will get the 6. That is so not true. Like Georgia right now is ranked 7.
Yeah.
And they're going to get jumped by other teams because of the automatic. If Georgia loses that game, they might be out of the playoff, period.
Man.
Just saying. So that if Georgia is the loser, there is 0 chance they get the 6. Absolutely 0. They're not going to go up in the rankings after a loss.
Mm-hmm.
That's impossible. It's not going to happen. So Texas, that's a possibility. Look, if Texas loses in the SEC championship, sure, it's a possibility they fall to 6. That I will absolutely get on board with that, Joe. But there is 0 chance that Georgia gets the 6.
And then with Texas, because the way that the committee evaluates it is they view ranked wins by who is currently ranked at the time of the rankings coming out. So there's a chance if Texas beats Texas A&M might fall out of the rankings because they're already 20th.
Yeah.
And if they lose to Georgia, Texas will have had 0 ranked wins on the season. And there's not a chance that they're going to put, I don't want to say there's not a chance, but it would be really hard to put them in front of a Notre Dame team that is 11-1 when Texas at that point would be 11-2.
They would have 2 losses, yeah.
Yeah. And they'd be a 2-loss team without a single ranked win. At least I'd be able to hear the argument on that one. I could hear that one out. But if Georgia loses and gets the 3, or if Georgia loses and gets the 6 seed, I'm not somebody that believes sports are rigged or anything like that, but I would entertain that.
How could you even have a conversation and justify Georgia losing that game, getting their third loss and going up.
Yeah.
Like there's just no way. There's
Yeah.
no way. So, but guess stranger things have happened, but I just don't see that being the case.
Right. Sorry. Buy, sell, hold from Paul Welch, 84. Vanderbilt beats Tennessee this weekend.
Yeah, I just the Fighting Clark Lees. I'm going to sell it. They've had a lot of big wins for themselves this year. I just don't. I think this one might be one too many.
Yeah,
that's simple.
Like I said, the Cinderella story of Vanderbilt beating Alabama was awesome, but every other opportunity that they've had to beat a ranked team, they just haven't really taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So as awesome as it would be, like I was fully on board with the fact that Vanderbilt was going to beat LSU, who is not good this year. They're just not, and they weren't able to pull that off. They gave Texas a run for their money, but if you watch the game, it was not as close as what the final score indicated. I would love for it to happen. It would be an awesome, kind of last mic drop for Clark Lee to, end the season, just adding a little bit more chaos to the SEC. But I'm going to sell it. I just don't think it happens.
I mean, I would love to watch that game. If it went down that way.
Sure.
I just think that's a tough hill to climb. And even though Vanderbilt is hosting that game, I still feel like that's a tough hill to climb. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Look, I don't really trust Tennessee's quarterback, to be perfectly honest with you. So as a Notre Dame fan, I would love to play Tennessee because I think they would make him look very pedestrian.
Yeah.
But Vanderbilt isn't Notre Dame's defense. So
I saw a tweet today, and I just pulled it back up. Nico, the starting quarterback for Tennessee, a lot of people talk about his stats this year. He's like, well, he has 15 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions. 12 of his 15 touchdown passes came against Kent State, Mississippi State, Chattanooga, NC State, and University of Texas El Paso.
Yeah. I mean, there it is. So he's not throwing a bunch of touchdown passes in the big games.
Yeah.
That's the problem for Tennessee. So Great stat, by the way, Trevor. You're always bringing the heat.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the final buy, sell, hold from Poe Welch on this slide. 2 3-loss SEC teams make the playoffs.
Huge sell. The only chance, in my opinion, the SEC has of getting a 3-loss team is if Georgia somehow gets in after losing to Texas in the SEC championship.
Yeah, I don't.
Unless there's absolute chaos, and then really anything's possible. Yeah. But I think this is going to be a quieter Saturday than this past Saturday.
I think so too. I mean, because if you go through and you look at it, Alabama beating a really bad Auburn team and them going 9-3 is not going to be enough to jump them into, unless IU loses to Purdue, which I just don't see happening. There would have to be a lot that happens above current 3-loss teams,
right?
And then in that case, you would have to make the argument that Georgia loses this weekend to Georgia Tech and they go 9-3. Texas loses to Texas A&M. Tennessee loses to Vanderbilt, and then Texas and Georgia play in the SEC championship, and then Georgia wins. That would be the scenario if there was going to be 2 3-loss SEC teams in, and it would still be Texas and Georgia. But I don't see it. I don't.
Yeah. Agreed.
All righty.
All right. AST12321 gave us a super chat, but he also has a buy sell hold in the show, ready to roll. So buy sell hold. Jeremiah Love will return to Notre Dame next year, even if Coach McCullough takes a promotion elsewhere. Why do people think Jeremiah Love is leaving?
I don't know.
I don't really understand that question, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm gonna absolutely buy it because I don't know why he would leave, regardless of who his coach is. He's not going anywhere. First of all, he's a sophomore. He's not transferring. He's not eligible for the draft. So I just don't see it.
Yeah, I'll buy it because I don't think Jeremiah Love is going anywhere.
Right.
I haven't heard much rumblings about Dylan McCullough taking a promotion elsewhere either. Now, I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but Jeremiah Love is Notre Dame's RB1. And what history has shown us is when skilled players at Notre Dame transfer to other schools, it doesn't fare as well for them as if they would have just stayed at Notre Dame, in my opinion. But you can go through and look at the stat sheet of the majority of the skilled players that have transferred since they left Notre Dame. It kind of backs that up.
Yeah.
But I just don't. There'd be no reason for him to leave. And now with Nil being a factor, if Jeremiah Love was like, "Hey, coach, I'm thinking about exploring the transfer portal," I think he would get himself a healthy paycheck.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Brandon says not enough touches, maybe transfer someplace. Again, I don't think people understand. This is what he wants. This is what his family wants. That he's not begging for more touches. That's the thing. Like, this is a plan. This is a well thought out plan by Notre Dame. And he doesn't need more touches. 7 for 130. He doesn't need more touches. He's averaging 7 yards a carry on the season. It's fine. Like, everything is, believe me, everything is just fine. So,
yeah,
I think we're okay.
I agree. I'm with you on that one. Buy, sell, hold from I Am Tenzin. Water sucks. Gatorade is better.
Wow, somebody's watching The Water Boy. I guess on that one. I mean, I think I am contractually required to say that Gatorade is better since I work for Gatorade in the summertime. So I'm going to say Gatorade is better on that one.
Well, then in the spirit of helping out my boy Vince, I also think Gatorade is better. I got you.
Oh, I love it. Man. That's great. That's a great question, though. I love that.
That's funny. All righty. Another buy, sell, hold from I Am Tenzin. Playing at a lower division of NCAA is better than playing a career D1 reservist.
You know, it's very interesting that this question comes up, I Am Tenzin, because obviously I am right in the middle as a parent of the recruiting process. And we are having those discussions literally every day, my kid and me, because there's interest on both levels. And there is a much better opportunity to play at a lower level, come in right away and compete and play, than there is at an upper level where you've got, there are obviously perks to playing at a higher level, right? More gear, better facilities, maybe better equipment, stuff like, sure. Okay. Awesome. But then do you want to play or do you just want to be a career backup? Like that's a great question. What are your goals? I think that's the biggest thing. What are your goals, right? From an academic standpoint, from a playing time standpoint, from a work ethic standpoint, like all of those things. There are plenty of people out there, and I am not digging on any of them, that are totally fine with being a reserve D1 or a career D1 reservist. They're totally fine with that. They're getting their education. They're making friendships. They're never going to enter a game. They're cool with it. There are other people that it will eat them up inside if they're standing on the sideline the whole time, right? So who are you? Which person are you? You know what I mean? So I just think it's a very long conversation to have if you're a recruit and you're trying to decide where you're going to go, and you have to be able to tick all the boxes, have all the conversations, and do all of the things to see where you would best fit. So I personally, I'll speak from my own personal standpoint. I would rather go to a lower level and play than be on the sidelines my entire career. That's me. I'm not saying that's what my son would want to do. I'm not saying anything else. That's what Vince would do. I would want to play.
I think there's a lot of subjectivity to this one.
Yeah.
Yes. It depends on to your point, what your goals and aspirations are after you graduate. It depends on where you want to go and experience like the school part. Yep. You know what I mean? Like there's some people that really want to go to that big college town feel. Yep. Like some of it is financially based. It's like, you know what? Yeah, you can go be a D1 reserve. We're only going to give you a partial scholarship, or you could go be a full ride scholarship player to D2 school. I think it depends on what position you play. I think it depends on, how, if you see yourself realistically playing in the NFL. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like if you think that you would have a better chance at making the NFL sitting on the bench for 2 years and then maybe rotating in your junior year and then finally getting a chance to start your senior year, if you think you would have a better chance of doing that at a Division I school than just playing all 4 years at a D2 or a D3 school, then yeah, I think that makes sense. And now with the transfer portal being so much bigger than what it is, I think personally that it makes going to a lower division of the NCAA a little bit more attractive. Like you go and you have guys like Cody Schrader, the running back from Missouri last year. I mean, he started at the D2 level and then ended up being one of the leaders in the SEC in terms of rushing yards last year for Missouri. And I think it was his 5th year, but he started at the D2 level. So I think there's a lot of subjectivity to it. I don't think that there's like one cut and dry answer of which one is better. So that's what makes recruiting so interesting and so tough is it all kind of just comes down to the kid, you know?
Yep.
I mean, that's just where it was. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. It's not a cookie cutter answer. It's every kid is going to be different. I could go on for days about why I think my kid's going to choose what he chooses. But then again, we don't know if all the offers are in yet. You know what I mean? Like all the offers are on the table. Yeah. You got to see what is out there, you know? And so all I can tell you is education is very, very important to my kid. And football is secondary. It's an avenue to get his degree. So is that a D1 possibility? Yeah. Is it a D2 possibility? Yeah. You know, so it's like, what's the best fit? And like you said, it's not cookie cutter. So great question, though.
Yeah.
Great question.
That was a really good question. What we should do, though, for your kid is on a Friday after a mailbag, have him come on here live and commit once he's ready.
We've talked about that, actually.
That'd be fun.
I think Brian wants to do a commit show for him. So I think that would be a lot of fun.
That'd be awesome. We'll have to get him some hats.
That's right. Yeah.
And I want the full show. I want him to put on 4 hats, take them all off. And then I want the lights to go out and go back on. And then you come in dressed as the mascot of whatever school he's going to. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, I'm here for it.
It's going to be awesome.
I'm here for it. All right. ATX Sam, buy, sell, hold. That with all the chaos going on this season, Notre Dame would still make the playoff with a less than 7-point loss to USC. So they're losing in this scenario. Man, there would have to be some chaos, I think, for them to stay in with a loss. I do. Because, you know, I think people have forgiven Notre Dame for the loss to NIU right now, for the most part. And, you know, I mean, look, they're sitting at hosting a game right now, right? If they win out, they're hosting a game. They're in great shape.
Yep.
If they win out. At first, I thought that said a 7-point win. So, but a 7-point loss, I think you are no longer in control. Like there's going to be some extenuating circumstances that will have to come your way in order to stay in.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you go and look at the rankings right now, the teams that would assuming they also win this weekend, Miami jumps Notre Dame, Georgia jumps Notre Dame, Tennessee would jump Notre Dame. And then you have a lot of questions around, you know, like
Boise State, IU.
Yeah.
Like, are you higher than Clemson at this point with the same record?
Right.
Those would be some discussions. And
what the committee has shown is they value losses more than quality wins.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's just, I mean, they value more who you lost to. They do. That's why Penn State is still the number 4 team in the country.
Right.
Is because they played a close game against Ohio State. And the reason why I put that in quotations is I don't believe that you can play a close game against a team when you score 0 offensive touchdowns. But that's just me. Now, I think they would have to go and evaluate what that would be for Notre Dame. And since they evaluate losses so closely, they lost to, I don't know what their team is right now, but I think Northern Illinois is also 6-5. You know, you lose to a 6-5 Northern Illinois team and a 6-5 USC team. That's not great. Not great. I
agree. I think they'd be out personally. And
I do too.
I don't know that they would have much of an argument to be in. And this is coming from somebody that wants to see Notre Dame in. Yeah. Those losses are 2 bad losses. Those are 2 bad losses. And you wouldn't have a bunch of wins to hang your hat on, you know? Yeah. So I think they would be out, and I think they would deserve to be out at that point.
I do too.
The bowl game would be a bunch of guys opting out, and that would just be awful to watch. So, yeah, not good.
Too bad it's not going to happen.
Absolutely. I don't even want to think about that. It's awful.
No.
I don't even want to think about it.
No. Buy, sell, hold from Poly 1029. Love will wind up taking a semifinalist list for the Doak Walker Award this year and return a top 5 candidate for the Heisman next year.
Go ahead. You can take the stab at this one.
Well, I don't know. Has the Doak Walker Award list semifinalist list?
A lot of lists have come out.
That's what I'm saying, because I saw the Jim Thorpe Award finalists came out, and for whatever reason, Xavier Watts wasn't on it.
And neither was Travis Hunter. Just ask Prime. Let's see here. Doak Walker Award. Here we go. Let's see here. Will be unveiled. our 3 finalists. Here we go. The kid from North Carolina, kid from Iowa, and the kid from Boise. Those are the finalists.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch him eye test wise, Jeremiah Love is one of the best running backs in college football in terms of his patience, his explosive running ability, his top end speed. But unfortunately, he just doesn't get the volume that those other guys have. You know, which result. Now, if Jeremiah Love got the same amount of volume as Ashton Genty did, I think their stats would look eerily similar. I do. Yeah, I mean, in 2 games, Jeremiah Love has had 260 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. I'm pretty sure Ashton Genty did that in like a game this year.
Right.
Like legit. I'm pretty sure he got close. So do I believe that he will be a top running back returning next year? I do. I don't buy that he's going to be a top 5 Heisman candidate next year, and that has nothing to do with Jeremiah Love. It is really, really, really hard for running backs to get love in the Heisman Trophy voting. Because you look at what Ashton Genty's done this year, and for whatever reason, he's still behind Travis Hunter. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. It's just really tough to see the numbers that Genty's putting up, and Travis Hunter is still leading in the Heisman Trophy odds poll, whatever you want to call that. But I don't think any of that has a knock on Jeremiah Love at all. Like with these awards, especially with like Xavier Watts not winning the Jim Thorpe Award and all those other things. Like some of these awards just don't hold much validity to me anymore. Honestly, that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I mean, so specific to this question, I looked at the Doak Walker thing. I don't even think they had a semifinal list, first of all. They just went straight from preseason to finalists. So obviously I'd be out on that. And then he's not going to get enough touches. He's not going to get enough. He'll get some, like, okay, let's say Notre Dame goes out and wins a national championship. He's going to get a lot of love coming back. There's no doubt about that. He's going to get a lot of press. He's going to get a lot of talk. He's going to be on a lot of preseason awards, all of those different things. And if he is already being talked about as a Heisman Trophy winner, going into the year, he's got a shot. But at the same time, I don't think he's going to be able to, he's not going to be a stat accumulator, which is what a lot of these guys end up having to be in order to make a case to be in the Heisman. And like you said, it's a quarterback award, man. Like, I just don't see Jeremiah Love having the stats that would unseat quarterbacks. That's the problem.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, you want to know how much the Heisman Trophy Award is just swung to, quarterbacks and receivers. This is a down quarterback year.
Mm-hmm.
And in a year where, let me pull up his stats real quick. In a year where Ashton Genty has on the season 2,062 rushing yards and 27 total touchdowns, or 27 rushing touchdowns, excuse me. Receiving, he has 1 receiver. So he has 28 total touchdowns this year and over 2,100 total yards through 11 games. And he is not in the lead for Heisman voting. To show you how hard that is as a running back to win the Heisman Trophy. There's a reason why the last running back who won this award was a decade ago in Derrick Henry. So it's unfortunate. It's frustrating. And as much as I would love to see Jeremiah Love hoist up that Heisman Trophy, I just don't. Plus, the way that Notre Dame is going to be set up next year, I think they're going to be a little bit more pass-oriented than they were this year.
Agreed.
So now I think there's a chance if Jeremiah Love has, let's say he has a season where he has like a little bit over 1,000 rushing yards and like 500-600 receiving yards and 20 total touchdowns. I think he'd be in the discussion, but just nothing to do with Jeremiah Love. It's just not an award that gets favored for running backs, unfortunately.
Yep. Completely agree. All right. Let's see. Richard III. Buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame wins the turnover battle on Saturday.
No, absolute buy.
Huge buy. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I watched the highlights of the Nebraska USC game. And like I said, Jaden Mavia. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce his last name, but Jaden Mavea was asking to get picked off. I mean, multiple times. So I absolutely believe it. And then on the offensive side, Notre Dame has done a really good job of taking care of the football the latter half of this season. So yeah, I absolutely buy that they win the turnover battle.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, like I said, Notre Dame's offense, our defense has a way of, making things difficult for the opposing team's quarterback. And I think he's going to throw into some coverages. He's going to do some things that he doesn't want to do. I think there's a chance the ball's going to hit the ground. There's just so many opportunities for turnovers. And I just don't see Notre Dame turning the ball over with any amount of consistency. They might have one, that kind of a fluke fumble, fluke interception, something along those lines. But Notre Dame is going to force more. I mean, I think they lead. Do they lead the nation in turnovers or turnover margin? Either way, they're really good at getting turnovers. So yes, that's a huge buy for me.
Yeah.
Black Irish 864 buy sell hold. Riley Leonard throws for 250 yards and rushes for 100. This will be his coming out party.
So I have mixed emotions about this one.
Yeah.
I'm going to sell this because I believe that if those are the numbers he puts up, this is going to be a much closer game than what I believe it's going to be. Because there's a chance. I mean, Riley Leonard played a fantastic game against Army, and he passed for his second lowest passing total of the season. Passed for 148 yards. His next lowest after that was 112 yards against Purdue, where he only played one half. So, I mean, Riley Leonard had more passing yards against Northern Illinois than he did against Army, to put that into perspective. So I will say, if Riley Leonard throws for 250 and rushes for 100, I think Marcus Freeman kept him in, even in not a close game, just to make a statement as kind of the final, hey, this is who we are as a team, before the playoff committee has its final look at Notre Dame before the playoffs. It's either that or it is a much closer game than what it should be. That's my two cents. What about you, Vince?
Yeah, I think if it was 260, like 200 yards throwing, 60 yards rushing, I'd be like, yeah, I'd buy that. I think that's about what I want him to be perfectly honest with you. A good Riley Leonard game for me is right around that 200-yard mark throwing and right around the 60 to 65-yard mark rushing. And like 3 touchdowns accounted for. I don't care if they're in the air. I don't care if it's him running it in. Doesn't matter to me. That's the stat line that I want to see from Riley Leonard. I agree with you. 250 and 100 is a little high. And I don't want this to be the Riley Leonard show because that's not who this offense is. They got to spread it around. I mean, it's almost becoming like a joke as to how many receivers are getting balls from Riley Leonard, right? I mean, it's 8, it's 11, it's 9, it's whatever. Like it's multiple every single time. And Riley Leonard is really settling into this offense. And I just don't want it to be all Riley Leonard. I just don't. I don't think it needs to be. I don't think this offense is going to be where they want to be if this is the stat line. I agree with you wholeheartedly. That's not who Notre Dame is right now. And that's not a good thing if this is the case. Now, could Notre Dame win big if Riley Leonard has those kind of stats? It's possible, sure. But I just feel like the ball's not getting spread around enough if that's the case. And that's a problem.
Yeah, I agree with Riley Leonard. For him to go over 100 rushing yards, I mean, he either had to have had a monster day of scrambles or not a whole lot is working for the offense, and they just resort back to, all right, Riley, buckle up, dude. You're going to run the ball 20 times.
Or maybe he busts out a 60-yard run.
Sure.
I mean, that's a possibility, but you can never count on those.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. And in reference to the turnover question, Notre Dame is number 2 in turnover margin and number 1 in the country in turnovers gained.
Look at you. Gosh, you get the bell.
I appreciate that.
You get the bell, the Nugget bell.
Thank you.
All right. Chris WSD, buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame is better off having lost to NIU. We should be thankful for the loss.
So I want to provide a little bit of context here to Chris's submission because he had a much longer post on the board, but Brian didn't want to take up too long of a slide here. So after Chris said that, went on to say they have a much better team and culture because of their reaction to the loss and how that has carried forward. Even if they were undefeated, and there's no guarantee they would be a similar playoff seeding, but they wouldn't be the tempered team they are now. I think the team is considerably more likely to win multiple playoff games or national championship having experienced that loss than they would be if they had won that game.
So I understand where Chris is coming from here, and I don't disagree with him. Look, Notre Dame, I think, is staring the 6th seed right in the face. If everything kind of holds the way I think it's going to hold, the best they could be is the 5. Like I think you're one playoff seeding spot lower than maybe you would be if you were undefeated. And I think it definitely woke up a bit of a sleeping giant for Notre Dame. Look, they beat Texas A&M on the road before that. They did not look like a complete team. It was a defensive struggle. Like, the defense is really good. The offense did enough, right, to score and win that game. But ever since the NIU loss, Notre Dame has been on an absolute tear. They've been on a tear. And I think part of that is because they know that the margin of error was razor thin. They had to, not only did they have to win every game, but they had to make a statement doing it. And they have every single game. And you could point to maybe the Louisville game. It wasn't quite as big of a win as you would want. But I mean, they had control of that game. Like, the game control of that game was heavily in Notre Dame's favor, right? So Notre Dame has come out and they have taken the challenge of, man, we have 10 games to go and we got to win every one of them. And we got to win every one of them the way we need to win every one of them. And they've done that with one game to go. So I think they are better off losing. It's in the moment, I would have never said that. Like, as we're doing the post-game show for that game, there is no chance I've been like, yeah, this is going to be good for the team. Like, there's no way I would ever say that, ever. And it kind of stings a little bit coming out now, but I understand the concept of it. And I do think it woke this team up, and I think they're a better team in the long run because of it.
I agree. And Chris, let me start off by saying this is a fantastic submission. I love this submission.
Yeah.
Now, there's been a lot of examples this year of teams not being able to handle success. You had Alabama beat Georgia. The following week, they lost to Vanderbilt. You had Texas A&M blow out LSU. The following week, they lost to South Carolina. Colorado started playing better than what a lot of people thought they were going to. And they found themselves ranked, and they were on a winning streak, and then they lost to Kansas. So there's a lot of different things that you can point to as to, teams not being able to handle success well. And I'm happy that Notre Dame got their lesson in week 2 of the season, because it's not a given to say that if they beat NIU, they wouldn't have lost to Louisville. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it's not a given to say that, look, I understand that it sucks to say, like, am I going to say that I'm happy Notre Dame lost? No, I'm not, because I don't like when Notre Dame loses. I mean, I don't know if you guys are like me, but it makes me feel bad. I don't like when Notre Dame loses. It bothers me. You can ask my wife. I hate it. I'm in a bad mood. Like, it's not great. But what it did for this team, and Chris, this is why I'm happy that you expanded on it, what it did for the culture of this team.
Yeah.
What it did for the morale of this team to get behind a quarterback and an offense that was struggling. I don't think you guys understand. Do you know how easy it would have been for this defense to say, dude, our offense is not good, man?
Right.
Like, our offense is not good. Yeah, we're winning, but it's because of us. This ignited a certain fire under this team. And one thing that doesn't show up on the scoreboard is the evolution of how happy this team looks when they play together now. That was not the case in September. Just wasn't. And now they're celebrating. They're doing all these other things. But it's just, sometimes teams need that loss. And what Notre Dame has done post that loss has been fantastic. Alabama was never able to recover from that loss to Vanderbilt. After the Vanderbilt loss, they lost to Tennessee, and then they got blown out by a really bad Oklahoma team.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what Notre Dame has done has been spectacular since the loss in Northern Illinois. And they got their lesson early in how to handle success. And I think it was it puts you in a position where you can't overlook any team, no matter how much better you think that they are, which I think is going to bode well for Notre Dame in the playoffs, because barring them handling business this week, they're going to be playing a team that is a significantly lower seed than them, which is going to be another important lesson of we can't overlook them. I don't care that they're the 11th seed. To me, they're the 11th best team in the country.
Right.
They made the playoffs. Like, this is, so all the lessons I'll put it this way. I love the lessons that it taught this team and the culture it began to build, but I didn't love watching that game. I mean, it was just, we had a 5.5 hour post-game show about it. So That was good. That was the second show I ever did with Vince. First one was after Texas A&M.
I know. It was great. And that second one, not so much. Not so much. C-Rod 33, buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame, buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame will be seated 6th in the final playoff bracket ahead of both Penn State and the SEC championship game loser.
Yeah, I mean, we covered this one on an earlier submission, C-Rod. A little bit differing opinions just to keep you updated. I'm selling it because I think Notre Dame will take the 7th seed. The committee has shown nothing that they're going to ever move Notre Dame above Penn State. And if a 35-point win over an undefeated top 20 team isn't going to do it, I don't think beating a 6-5 USC team is. Now, I would love to be proven wrong, but that remains to be seen. It's more my lack of trust in the committee than it is my faith in Notre Dame.
Fair. I'm going to buy it, but there are caveats where this would be a sell, right? If Texas is the loser of that game, I think there's a chance that Notre Dame could get bumped out of that 6th seed. That's an absolute chance because they put the Big Ten loser in the 5 and the SEC loser in the 6. I think that's an absolute possibility. Unless Texas A&M wins on Saturday and Texas isn't even involved in the college football play, in the SEC championship. Because I think if Texas loses on Saturday, I think they fall behind Notre Dame. And then the loser of the SEC championship would then get its 4th loss. And so they would be out as they would be behind as well. So this would be a good question for next week. That's for sure. Yeah. Because we'd know more about Texas at that point.
A Texas A&M win over Texas would be huge.
Oh, it'd be huge for Notre Dame for multiple reasons, right? Not only do they move up in the rankings, but then their best win gets better.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like it.
Buy, sell, hold from Ben Tarnowski. Notre Dame defense will have 4 sacks and force 3 turnovers against USC, 2 picks and a forced fumble.
I'll buy it. That's about where I'm at, to be perfectly honest with you. Like I said, I think they're going to make life a living you-know-what for this USC offense and specifically the quarterback. I think they're going to pin their ears back and go get them. And I think 4 sacks is absolutely reasonable. And I think 2 picks and a forced fumble is absolutely reasonable. So I'll buy it. What the heck?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll absolutely buy this one. I mean, and I think 3 turnovers is a minimum to me, in my opinion. Notre Dame has forced, I think, 2 turnovers in every game that they've played since Northern Illinois outside of Army and Georgia Tech. I think it's Army and one other one. But Mavea does not do a good job of taking care of the football. When he gets pressured, he will just throw it up. And against inferior opponents, USC's receivers are able to win.
Yep.
Against Xavier Watts and Adon Schuler and Leonard Moore and Christian Gray and Jordan Clark, I don't think he's going to be that lucky. So, no, I like that a lot. So I'm definitely buying. Another one from Ben Tarnowski. Lincoln Riley will be an NFL offensive coordinator next year.
That's a sell for me. If this was a year from now, after another subpar year, then sure, I would buy that. But right now, I think he still is around because this is year 2 for him, right? This is year 2.
For Lincoln Riley at USC.
Yeah. Oh no, it's year 3. It's year 3 because he had 2 with Caleb Williams. He's got this one. I think he's safe after year 3. I think he's on the hot seat going into year 4. A 6-6 team. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. And I think he'll hear about the fact that it's not good enough, but I don't think he will lose his job.
No, I do believe that if Lincoln Riley leaves USC, I think it'll be on his terms, not USC's, in my opinion.
You mean if he leaves this year?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yep, I agree with that.
I don't think he gets fired at now. If he repeats 6-6 in 2025, he's out of there.
Yep.
Yeah, he's out the gate.
Completely agree.
But if he leaves this year, it will be on his own terms.
Yep.
And maybe he's going to start seeing the writing on the wall. Maybe the recruiting class isn't as great as they thought that it was going to be. Whatever. Right. But who knows? But I'm with you on that one.
All right. B Jammin 41. Buy, sell, hold. 4 out of these 8 teams will get upset this weekend. So half of them. Okay. Georgia playing Georgia Tech. Alabama playing Auburn. Tulane playing Memphis. Tennessee playing Vandy. Texas playing Texas A&M. Miami playing Syracuse, Arizona State playing Arizona, and Missouri playing Arkansas. So 4 out of these 8. You got to find 4 here.
So for Georgia and Georgia Tech, it's going to depend on if Haynes King is playing for me, because Georgia's rush defense is not good. They gave up 150 rushing yards to UMass in the first half. So if Georgia Tech is able to establish some sort of ground game, that's going to be a long day for Georgia. But I don't know if Georgia Tech is going to be able to pull it off. Alabama, Auburn, I don't look. Alabama's loss to Oklahoma was bad. I don't think that happens in back-to-back weeks. I don't. Tulane, Memphis, I think, is going to be an interesting game. Memphis is a pretty good team. We already talked about Tennessee, Vandy. Texas A&M, I think that one's going to be close. I do. Texas has not performed well when they've played, teams of relatively equal quality. Like I do still think from top to bottom on their roster, Texas is better than Texas A&M. But I thought Texas had a better roster than Georgia, and Georgia beat them by 15 points at Texas. So that's how crazy this football season has been. Miami, Syracuse, I talked about this yesterday. Man, the final score of that game might be 65-62. I mean, neither team has a defense. They both can air it out. That game's going to be crazy. Arizona's hot Arizona State's hot right now. I don't think they lose. I could see Arkansas upsetting Missouri. I could see that. But 4, I'm going to sell. 4 to the 8 teams will get upset. I'm going to sell it.
Yeah, 4 is a lot. I mean, you walked through it really well. The biggest ones for me are Texas A&M, Miami, Syracuse. Those are the 2 biggest ones for me. The other ones are going to be a little bit tougher. So I can't even talk myself into finding 4 possibilities, let alone 4 outright victories. So I will sell this as well. 4 is a lot. Like I said, I think it's going to be a little quieter this Saturday than it was the past couple of Saturdays. So I just don't see it just yet. So there's going to be a couple upsets, but I don't think there's going to be that many.
Yeah, I'm with you. Buy, sell, hold from P. Hamilton 16. Alabama still makes it into the playoffs.
No, there's too much. I'm going to sell that. There's too many scenarios that have to take place for them to jump up. I mean, I believe they're sitting at 13 right now, which means they're the second team out. You're going to have to see at least 2 upsets above them for that to be the case. And I do not see that as a sell.
Yeah, a lot would have to happen. I'm selling this one too. I mean, Clemson would have to lose to South Carolina, and then who's to say that South Carolina wouldn't jump them? Brian walked through a scenario yesterday where South Carolina could, in theory, jump Alabama if they beat Clemson. So, it's
not good for Bama.
No. So, Alabama's kind of in a lose-lose there, because if South Carolina beats number 12 Clemson, South Carolina could jump them. And then if Clemson beats South Carolina, getting their only ranked win of the season, might I add, but they're going to move up Clemson regardless. Then you're hoping that Purdue beats IU, or USC beats Notre Dame, or Georgia falls to Georgia Tech. There would have to be some crazy things going on for that to happen.
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but too many boxes have to be checked.
Yep. I mean, and Alabama still has to take care of business against Auburn, I will say. I mean, you would think that it would happen, right? But I just watched Alabama not score a touchdown and get shut out for 3 straight quarters against a bad team.
Correct. And, my answer would be the same for any of these currently 3-loss SEC teams.
Yeah.
Way too much chaos has to happen. I know everybody's riding that South Carolina train, man, but their losses are bad. Their losses are bad. I don't care if they're hot right now. You can't lose those 3 games and still be considered for the playoff. I'm sorry.
Agreed.
You can't. Now, they're going to get an oomph if they can beat Clemson. I get it. They're still not going to get in.
Agreed. Buy, sell, hold from P. Hamilton 16. The 2024 Notre Dame team is the most talented since 2015.
I'm terrible at history when it comes to the Notre Dame football team. This is a perfect question for Brian if he was here, because he would just rattle off the 3 deep for every team that he's ever covered.
Oh yeah.
So that's a tough one for me. But if you want to give it a stab, you go right on ahead. I just feel like if I say buy on this, I feel like I'm going to be shirking some team that I shouldn't be shirking at this point. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's up there. I think you have to go
Yeah.
position group by position group. I mean, depends on how you want to look at the quarterback position. I mean, it's the most dynamic from a rushing standpoint, with Riley Leonard at quarterback. But 2015, Deshaun Kaiser had a beautiful deep ball, man.
Yeah.
Deshaun Kaiser was a really good passer. Running back room, I'm going to take this year's because it's deeper. Like CJ Prosise did some awesome things in 2015, but it was just CJ Prosise after Terrion Folsom went down tearing his ACL against Texas. So, give me this room with Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, and Aeneas Williams. Keep him young. Wide receiver room, I'm taking 2015s. Will Fuller alone was enough to carry that. Tight end room is interesting because 2015, Notre Dame had Durham Smythe, who ended up playing better than, but I would take Mitchell Evans above him, but Mitchell Evans this year has been kind of up and down. Offensive line, I'm taking the 2015 offensive line. Defensive line, God, it's so tough to say because Notre Dame has had so many injuries along this one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The 2015 defensive line had Sheldon Day and a true freshman, Jerry Tillery.
Yeah.
Linebackers. The linebackers in 2015 had Jalen Smith. Joe Schmidt was playing really well before he got injured and was battling injuries towards the end of the season. But Jalen Smith kind of carried that room. Give me this linebacking room as a whole, and I'll take this secondary as a whole. So I think it's an argument. The most talented since 2015, not over 2015. I would buy that because you look at 2018 and 2020, I think those would be up there, and I'm taking those offensive lines over this ones, but not many outside of that. The depth on this team, I think, is what would make me buy this. So buy.
Okay. I'll go with you. Bye.
All right.
Let's roll. That's great.
Good deal.
All right. Rhesus Christ. I always have to be careful with this one.
Yep.
Rhesus Christ. Buy, sell, hold. The NIU loss will be looked at as an inflection point in Marcus Freeman's career. So a little bit different of a spin on the NIU loss on this one.
An inflection point, meaning like the turning point of his career,
like something that we'll look back on if we're like analyzing his career as like this was a kind of a point to be reckoned with, I guess.
Yeah. I'll buy that for now. I mean, I would like to see this sample size kind of carry into like next year. What he's done after it this year has been great, but I'm going to need to see him with like a different team next year, play a Northern Illinois level team and not make some of the same mistakes that they had made, the week of preparation that they did for Northern Illinois this year. But I'll buy that. I'll buy it. I think you could look back on it and say, like, he experienced that really bad loss against a significantly inferior opponent, and it changed his way of approaching mental and physical preparation. So I'll buy it.
Yeah, I think for me, it's a buy because I just remember the show we did, the post-game show we did, and then the shows, plural, that we did following the NIU loss. And it was a resounding, hey, what is going on with this team? And it has to start at the top, right?
Yeah.
And we all did. I mean, and not just us here, like everywhere. It was like, man, is this a program problem? And if you're talking about a program problem, you have to talk about the head coach. And so, look, he felt that. He heard it. There's no doubt about it. And yet here they are, 9 games later, I should say, on the precipice of hosting a college football playoff game. So I think that he would even say that was a turning point in his career and the way he handled it. And because, look, it's a fine line. I think I said this, earlier in the week, or I don't know. I can't even remember. But it's a fine line on how you deal with that NIU loss and how you continue to bring it up with your players. And, do you just pound it into their brains? You just bring it up as a reminder? Do you, like we've heard that he plays it on the TVs at times, within the Goog. Like, he has found that fine line. He has walked that fine line very, very well. And his teams have come out prepared every single week after that. So I think this is a bit of a turning point for him as a coach.
One small thing that I noticed with Marcus Freeman is after, and sometimes even after wins, but like if they were like ugly wins, he mentioned this last year after the Duke win, which was a really ugly win on the road, is there was a lot of conversation around, we have to continue to refine and reevaluate how we get this team prepared and what we do in the week of preparation. Since that Northern Illinois loss, he hasn't really said that much. I think for him this year, he just found a groove with this team and he's sticking with it. He knows how to motivate them. He knows how to get this team up because it's showing.
Yeah.
Because Notre Dame has played more inferior opponents than Northern Illinois since that game. I mean, I know the name Northern Illinois is going to kind of leave that kind of burning feeling in your chest a little bit when you say it, but Florida State is not as good as Northern Illinois. Florida State's bad. I mean, don't get the names confused. Like, this is it's not a good Florida State team. This is not a good Stanford team. And it's just they did to them what they should have done to Northern Illinois. So whatever buttons Marcus Freeman is pressing, it's working.
Agreed. Another one from Rhesus. Buy, sell, hold. 3 teams currently in the playoff will be upset this weekend.
We kind of ran through it when it was that 4 conversation. I think 3 is a little bit more realistic. I mean, I could see it being Syracuse over Miami. I could see it being Texas A&M over Texas. I could see it. I'm still going to sell it. I know there's been a lot of chaos this year in college football, but I think that might kind of end in rivalry weekend, in my opinion.
It's a sell for me. I can't find, 3 teams that I can convincingly say will lose that are currently in the playoff. I mean, there's only 12 teams in the playoff. So you're telling me that a quarter of the teams are going to lose this weekend. I have a hard time with that one. Don't see it. All right. Buy, sell, hold from Rhesus. BK will be coaching at LSU next year.
Buy.
Huge buy.
Yeah, I'm buying that one. I mean, if there's anything that we've learned from Brian Kelly being Notre Dame fans for as long as we have been, he loves having a bad year and then being able to like raise the bar like just a little bit because like it helps him like lower the expectations. So if LSU goes 8-4, 7-5 this year and they go 9-3 next year, look at what great job I did.
Yeah.
It's just, it's what he does. So I'm buying that one.
Yep. And the buyout is way too big.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree. Buy, sell, hold from Diffusius. Within the next 2 years, a Power 4 conference or 2 will decide to drop its conference championship game and attempt to declare its champion at season's end and have its automatic berth too.
I'm going to buy this. I think that's an absolute possibility because I think you're going to see teams that are really affected in a negative way by the conference championship game. I don't care what the committee says about the loser of the championship game. They're going to be affected. They're going to be affected. And there's a chance they fall out too. So I think that conferences are going to start to look for a way not to punish, the loser of that game. And the way you do, it's hard because you don't want those teams to be punished, but you want that payday of what that conference championship means. So what's going to win out in the end? The chance to be in the playoff or the chance to get that big check for the conference? That's the question. But I'm going to buy it for fun. I'm going to buy this.
I like it. I think for the reasons that you laid out, I'm going to sell it because it would mean that conferences would just have to accept losing money in the conference championship game. Yeah. And unfortunately, in this industry, despite the NCAA being a non-for-profit, money kind of holds all. So no, I'm going to sell it. But I agree with what you're saying. All right.
Brendan Shamrock, buy, sell, hold. Anthony Knapp will remain in the starting lineup in 2025, but at guard instead of tackle.
I'm going to sell that. I think if Anthony Knapp remains in the starting lineup, it would be at center if Ashton Craig isn't able to go because you have, at guard, you're going to have a lot of different options. Anthony Knapp could be one of them, but I don't see him taking reps away from Billy Schrouth at guard. I don't. And then you have a guy like Sam Pendleton who could work his way into the starting lineup back at guard now that he has more experience. You have
Rocco's still going to be around.
Yep, Rocco is still going to be around.
And you got your 2 starters at guard right now that are coming back.
Yeah.
So, continue with your analysis.
Yeah, and it's going to depend on what happens with like Gerby Lambert and Charles Jagasaw. Like I could see a situation where they start one of them at tackle and one of them at guard. You know, I mean, who's to say that Sullivan Absher doesn't have a fantastic camp and pushes his way in? So, I mean, at the end of the day, Notre Dame is going to have champagne problems at the offensive line next year, barring everybody staying healthy. But it's going to be very deep. They're going to have a lot of experience along the offensive line. And their most inexperienced players are arguably going to be their most athletic and biggest, right? So I'm going to sell that because not because I don't think Anthony Knapp won't be a starter. It's just I think they would work him at another position, potentially at center if Ashton Craig isn't fully healthy, outside of guard, because guard is going to be pretty loaded. That competition is going to be pretty steep, in my opinion.
And they may still want Anthony Knapp to compete at tackle too, because the numbers aren't as big at tackle as they are right now, even though I don't think Anthony Knapp's best position would be tackle. So it's going to be interesting. Look, Billy Strouth is absolutely going to start.
Yeah.
It's going to be the question at the other guard. And I think Rocco has the inside track right now, but you never know. You never know. I guess we'll have to see. So I guess for the question, I will sell it because I don't see that being the case. I think they will defer to the two guys that are starting now, but you never know what can happen in camp and in the spring for that matter. So
sure.
Irish Catholic with a buy-sell hold preseason. You projected Notre Dame to be 11-1 heading into the USC game. Well, that's not possible. 10-1 heading into the USC game. The team is just as good as you expected them to be.
From a record standpoint, yes. I thought things were going to look a little bit different. Like it's weird. I brought this up I think it was a different post-game show that me, you, and Sean did. It might have been after the Florida State game. Is Notre Dame is scoring the amount of points that I thought they were going to, but they're doing it in a different way than I thought that they would.
It's fair.
Very, very similar to I thought Notre Dame would finish the year 11-1 and be 10-1 going into the USC game. I just didn't know who they were going to lose to, and I did not think it was going to be Northern Illinois.
Right.
So, I think this team is as good as I expected them to be from a record standpoint. Like statistically, they have the number 6 scoring offense in the country. They once again have a top 5 defense in the country, but it's different than how I thought it was going to go. But that's the fun of watching the season play out. So I guess I'll buy this because they are as good as I expected them to be. It just looks different.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. I will buy it. I would not have predicted the way the team looks right now, but I would have predicted 11-1 overall, 10-1 going into the USC game. So, yeah, I'm with you. Because I remember we all talked about this team's going to be an 11-1 football team because nobody wants to predict undefeated, but none of us could really pick out. Like I think we probably all would have had a different, decision as to who that one loss would be to, and to a man, not one of us would have picked NIU. So we all would have been wrong on that. And so, here we are. Notre Dame has a shot of being 11-1 and in great position going into the playoff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, because preseason, nobody expected Florida State to be like this.
No.
Preseason, nobody expected USC to be like this.
No.
Texas A&M is pretty on par, I think, with what everybody thought they were going to be.
Agreed.
I think people didn't expect much from Purdue. I don't think they expected Purdue to be like this bad. But, that's what's interesting about making preseason projections. I mean, nobody expected Florida State to be what they are. So, but yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I am with you. Buy, sell, hold from Ramble On. Notre Dame today is a championship caliber team.
Buy. I mean, they're currently rated as the number 5 team in the country. And if you're the number 5 team in the country, you are a championship caliber team. It's that simple for me. And if you want to dig deeper and you want to start looking at the numbers and you want to do all of those different things, the answer's still buy. The answer's still yes. They are a championship caliber team. So, I am not sitting here today afraid of anybody that they could potentially match up with in the playoff. I'm not. Notre Dame's got a chance to beat everybody. I'm not saying they're going to, but they have an opportunity to beat everybody that is going to be in the playoff. I feel good about it. So, yeah, it's a buy.
Yeah. I'll buy that as well. I'll buy it for all the things that you listed off and also just relative to the rest of college football. Right. There is no team this year that it's like, yo, this is a team that you do not want to face. And if you're going to make that argument, Notre Dame's one of those teams. Ohio State's one of those teams. Oregon's one of those teams. I'm still holding out on Texas to see how they do against Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Like on paper, eye test against other bad opponents, I would throw Texas in that mix. I would. But I mean, yeah, like if college football has been so wide open this year that if you told me the national championship was going to be Notre Dame versus Ohio State, I'd believe you. If you told me it was going to be at this point SMU and Georgia, I'd believe you. College football has been so wide open. So yeah, I absolutely believe that Notre Dame is in that mix for sure. Buy, sell, hold from Eye on the Ball. Riley Leonard has played well in cold weather, 20 to 30 degrees.
I have no idea. I have never looked at his career schedule and compared it to weather. So I have no idea. I really don't know. So I can't really buy or sell this because I don't know. He's from Alabama. He went to Duke. He's probably not played in a whole lot of cold weather games, if I'm being honest with you. Am I worried about it? No. But I don't think he's got a ton of experience in it.
Like cold weather, I would say yes. 20 to 30 degrees is freezing. Like literally by definition, that's freezing cold weather.
Yeah.
Like Florida State was chilly. Like it was windy. He went for 215 and 3 total touchdowns. I mean, he had like 285 total yards. Virginia was windy, but it wasn't 20 to 30 degrees. You know, I was in New York. It was windy, but it wasn't that cold. He had a good game. I mean, he was hurt last year when it was cold. I mean, I don't know what the temperature was on November 19th of 2022 when he played Pitt at Pitt. Might have been cold, but he went for 290 passing yards and 3 touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. So I'll hold it because I have no idea. I don't want to sell it and say that he can't, but I also don't want to buy it because I just haven't seen it. So I'll hold on it and wait to see what happens if Notre Dame gets a home playoff game. But weather up in South Bend in Indiana, who knows? It could be 65 degrees. I have no idea. So I'll hold.
Yeah, that's 3-4 weeks away right now. Who knows what the weather is going to be like? Got a long ways to go before that's the case.
Yeah, I think I golfed last year in the middle of December.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. We just haven't had Decembers that have rivaled the Decembers of past recently. So,
yep. But who knows, man? Who knows?
Buy, sell, hold from Rob Osgood. With the extended playoffs and the amount of scholarships expanding, will Notre Dame take 3 2-star recruits to bolster depth? Not just any recruits, but those that have developmental potential.
I mean, potentially, I'm going to be fully transparent. This isn't something that I'm like fully well-versed in. I think what would be a little bit more likely is just giving those kids who come on as preferred walk-ons just a scholarship early to add and provide depth. Guys that will give you good looks on scout team, like a guy like Anthony Rizak, I think would come in and just get a scholarship right off the bat, which I guess would fit in with the, take more, 2 to 3 star recruits to bolster depth. So I guess I'm saying buy. I suppose this is just not something that I'm super versed in. What about you, Vince?
Yeah, this is a tough one because Notre Dame hasn't really said how they're going to handle the 105 player limit. To be honest with you, I don't know if they're going to give full scholarships to all 105 players. They should, but I don't know if they are. And, did those 2 or 3 star recruits want it goes back to that question from earlier, right? Do those 2 or 3 star recruits want to come in and be career backups, depth pieces, or do they want to go someplace and play? I think that is really the overriding question to all of this is, kids that are looking for schools to go play at, are you, there's going to be really good players. They're going to fall from Division I to 1AA, and then so on and so forth. 1AA to Division II to Division III to NAIA. Like there's going to be a waterfall kind of a situation there, and so it just depends on how the different teams want to handle the additional roster spots and how they want to give scholarships, and are they still going to do walk-ons, and all of those different things. I think those are all legitimate questions. I don't think we know the answer to that, to be perfectly honest with you. I think there's going to be, like I said, there's kids that are made up to be walk-ons and they're cool with it and they want to be Notre Dame, student athletes. And so they'll do that. the money is obviously an issue, but if they're going to get scholarships, it's even easier. So I do think those last like 15 spots are going to be kind of your walk-ons that happen to get a scholarship. And that's probably the way it's going to end up going. I don't see them loading up with like 3 and 4 star guys just to bolster the depth, because all that's going to happen is those guys are going to transfer out.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Like having too much talent, just kind of, you'd be bringing in and putting in recruiting effort to a kid that is inevitably going to leave. So I'm with you there. One quick random note, has nothing to do with this buy-sell.
I love random notes.
But I saw somebody earlier in the chat ask about Marcus Burton. For those of you who don't know, Notre Dame is playing in the Players Era Festival in Las Vegas. And I was up until 2:30 in the morning last night watching them play.
Did you watch that game? Good for you. I couldn't get the channel, so I was not able to watch it.
Yep. So the game was insane. It was nuts. I mean,
and if only they had Burton, they win that game, man. But
I know, man. And so Marcus Burton went down with an injury very early after scoring his first point. Rutgers has, and it was no dirty play. It was just how it went. Marcus Burton drove the lane like he normally does. He finished at the rim, and their 6'10", 270-pound center landed right on top of his right knee. So that's unfortunate for Notre Dame, especially after Sir Muhammad was also ruled out for an indefinite amount of time while he was getting his knee worked on. But currently, they are trying to get Marcus Burton scheduled for an MRI. They're hoping to get an official word and the results of an MRI and a prognosis today or tomorrow, but they're trying to get that scheduled out in Las Vegas. So, but if you did not watch that game, I highly recommend going back through and watching the highlights of that game, because Matt Alaco single-handedly put the team on his back to force overtime. He hit a 3-point shot to tie the game at the end of regulation, and Notre Dame was down 6 with 50 seconds left, and they tied the game 84-84 because he hit 3 straight threes. So it was very fun to watch. But just wanted to comment on that because I saw that earlier in the chat.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm very interested to see what happens with Marcus, because he is the oil that runs that machine, you know, at Notre Dame. And I'm not saying they're going to lose all their games or anything crazy like that if he happens to be out, but it's going to be a much harder situation for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, the difference in that game, Rutgers has a guy, Dylan Harper, the son of Bulls legend Ron Harper. And he's a kid that, I mean, he might get taken in the top 5 of the NBA draft, and you could tell. And he was just a player that could just go get a bucket whenever he needed to. And Notre Dame's player that was able to do that was Marcus Burton.
Yep.
So it was a glaring issue. But through all that, they lost 85-84. So,
right.
You know, I think Marcus Burton would have been good for the 2-point makeup of that loss, but could just be me. Anyways, on with our regularly scheduled programming.
From Riker Ferg, buy, sell, hold. There will be at least 2 upsets in college football playoff rankings, top 10 this weekend.
Okay.
And for a bonus, Oklahoma beats LSU.
Well, I'll kind of work my way backwards on this. I would love to see Oklahoma beat LSU because
Always.
I just like when LSU loses. That brings me a lot of joy on my Saturdays. Gosh, I feel like we're getting more and
4 losses, 3 losses. Now we're at 2,
but in the top 10. I mean,
yeah.
Again, the losses in the top 10 would have to be either Syracuse over Miami, Georgia Tech over Georgia, Texas A&M over Texas, or I mean, if Michigan beats Ohio State, I mean, that means studied. But yeah, I don't see it happening. I'm going to sell it.
I've sold it every single time up to this point. I'll buy it. What the heck? I think there's a chance. I guess I'm putting my money on Syracuse and Texas A&M for this one to be the thing. So I'll buy it for that. What the heck? Why not? And the bonus part, I'm always going to buy LSU losing. So what the heck? Double buy for Vince. All right. Buy, sell, hold from Riker. Notre Dame special teams will score 0 points against USC. I
mean, I'm going to sell it. Are we counting like extra points, not as points for the special teams?
Nailed it. That's why it's a sell, because PATs are special teams.
Yeah.
So it's a sell.
And on top of that, I'm calling my shot. Notre Dame's going to block a punt return for a touchdown.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yep. Wanted to throw that out there, but I'm going to sell it just because, I mean, unless Notre Dame misses every extra point that they attempt.
I need to throw this up here because it kind of makes me a little perturbed. Stephen B says, if we're being honest, the most likely upsets are USC, Notre Dame, and Cuse, Miami. How is Notre Dame the most obvious upset? Explain that to me. Seriously. Explain to me how that's possible, how that's the most likely upset. Because I don't see it. I'm sorry. I don't see how that's the most likely upset. Can anybody lose on any day? Sure. But I don't see how Notre Dame's the most likely upset.
Yeah. I got no answer for you there.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, look, guys, I understand that there's all these stats being thrown around. And it's interesting that only now these USC stats are being thrown around the weekend that Notre Dame goes into town. The first ESPN notification that I got after the rankings came out on Tuesday was, will Notre Dame be able to survive an upset to USC? Like that was the first notification that I got. And it was an article full of, USC is 4-1 at home and they've lost all of their games by one possession or less. And their combined margin of loss is 19 points. And it's like, yeah, it's funny that they weren't talking about this when they were getting ready to play, Nebraska when they were 4-5. So it is what it is. Like,
Notre Dame has the number one pass defense in the country, and they think that USC, with a quarterback who's starting his third game ever, is going to exploit that. Cool. Keep thinking that. That's cool. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Rivalry, sure. It was a rivalry last year.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And what has Notre Dame done on the road this year? They're undefeated on the road, everybody. Like, I don't see why going to USC is going to be any different.
Yeah.
They're undefeated on the road, and the margin of victory for Notre Dame is massive on the road.
Yeah, and look, once again, like, I understand the argument of the spread here, guys, but listen, like, I don't dictate what's most likely because of what Vegas says.
Right.
Notre Dame was a 20-plus point favorite against Northern Illinois. Alabama was a 20-plus point favorite against Vanderbilt and against Oklahoma. And that doesn't mean it's the most likely to happen. I'm not saying that it can't be, but I
don't see how it's the most likely. That's my argument. No. Could they lose? Sure. I just don't see how it's the most likely when you put all those games up and you're like, yeah, Notre Dame, USC, that's the most likely. They are getting way too much publicity for what is on their roster, but what is on their roster still has to play the games. Yeah. And they've lost 5 games this year. 5 games. And they went to overtime with a Penn State team that's not that good, everybody. So if you are on the bandwagon of Notre Dame should be ranked higher than Penn State, then Notre Dame should smack around USC. I don't know. I guess we'll all know, I guess, on Saturday, about this time on Saturday, but I just don't see how it's the most likely. That's my argument. I don't see how it's the most likely.
Yeah, I'm with you.
We got one more on here from Riker Ferg. Buy, sell, hold, love, and price will combine for 150 yards on offense and 3 total touchdowns.
Not by that. Yeah,
that's through the air too. That's total offense. So like we're talking catches, we're talking runs, we're talking all of that. I'm with you, Trev. I buy it as well.
That's actually a pretty easy buy. 150 total yards and 3 total touchdowns amongst their 2 most explosive players on offense. Yeah. Yeah, I'd buy that. All righty. Buy, sell, hold from Ball Peen Jeweled Shillelagh. Like the name switch up there. That's good. We see Denbrock's full offensive genius unleashed at USC, not running the same goal line play twice in a row, leading to at least a 3-score lead before the half.
Could they have a 3-score lead at the half? Yes, they could. Some things are obviously going to have to go their way, and it won't just be because of Denbrock. It'll be because of Al Golden getting some turnovers in the first half. But the be-all, end-all leading to a 3-score lead, I'll buy it.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I mean, a 3-score lead doesn't necessarily have to be 21-0. I could see it being like I think 17-0 or 20-3 is like well within the realm of possibility of what this game could look like at halftime.
Absolutely.
So I'd buy it again. Like I said, and I've said this before too. I'm not one of those people that thinks that like Mike Denbrock just has this secret playbook for when he's just going to unleash all of these weapons. Like I think he's doing a better job of having a rhythm offense, and I think he's doing a better job of like setting up plays down the road in the same game. But I don't think that he has this, water boy green playbook that he's just waiting to whip out against USC and into the playoffs. I don't. So like I think Notre Dame's offense is going to look relatively similar. I think they're just executing at a much higher level. Riley Leonard's been playing really well lately, and the offensive line has too. So I think it's going to be more of that than the full genius of Mike Denbrock. In my opinion. But I do buy that they could be up by 3 scores at the half. I do buy that. Another buy, sell, hold. The Notre Dame defense keeps Woody Marks under 70 rushing yards.
You have any idea what he's averaging right now off the top of your head? I have not looked at it. So
off the top of my head, no, but I can look really quickly here. I mean, it's what Al Golden has done a really good job of this year has been taking away what a team does best. And I don't know if that game plan is going to be stopping Woody Marks.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, this year he's an 1,100-yard rusher, and and USC is 6-5.
He's literally averaging 100 yards a game.
Yeah.
Like on the button.
Yeah. So he's averaging 100 yards a game. And I mean, he had 123 yards against Washington and they lost. He had 111 yards against Penn State and they lost. He had 134 against Minnesota and they lost. He had 100 yards against Michigan and they lost. So I don't know if the goal to stopping him or stopping USC's offense is what I get where you're coming from, because in 2022 it was, Caleb Williams, he's a Heisman contender. He's probably going to win it. He'll get his, but you just can't let the running back room go off and then USC rush for 200 yards in 2022. So I get where you're coming from this submission, but I don't think the key to beating USC is holding Woody Marks in containment. To me, it's not letting the receiving core make big plays because they're very deep. That's mine. But do I think that they could hold him to under 70? Sure. I mean, Wisconsin did, and so did LSU, and that was it. So Woody Marks is pretty solid, but that's my take. What about you, Vince?
You know what? I think I'm going to sell it because I think their number one priority is going to be to shut down the passing game. I think that's going to be the number one priority, and I think they will do a good job against the run, but they're not going to get hurt by the run.
Yeah.
Even if he goes over 70 yards, they won't get hurt by it. So yeah, I'm going to sell it, but I don't think that that's indicative of how the game is going to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Lincoln Riley is who he is, and I don't think he switches up his ideology as an offensive coach just because he's playing Notre Dame this week.
Right.
And Notre Dame has shown, like, when they want to shut down the run, they can.
Right.
It's, when teams have success running the ball on them post Northern Illinois, it's because, like, Al Golden allows it to happen. Look what they did to Jamal Haynes. So, all righty. Oh, another one from Ball Peen Shillelagh. Buy, sell, hold. As USC is forced to play from behind, Christian Gray is miraculously cured of his DB hands and records his second interception of the season, adding to the total of 3+ as the team picks apart Mabea.
Oh, man. So basically, is Christian Gray going to get an interception in this game? I will buy it. I think he will get an interception because there will be a ball that is thrown right to him, and he will have no choice but to catch it.
Yeah. I'll buy that one as well. I'm with you.
Ooh, another one from Ball Peen Jewel Shillelagh. Buy, sell, hold. Mayava is so harassed by the defense that Riley benches him for Miller Moss.
Ooh. That's interesting. I have not seen USC switch quarterbacks in the middle of a game yet this season. Now, I do think that Miller Moss is the more skilled passer than Mavea. Just Miller Moss had issues with turnovers. Now, if you watch the USC-Nebraska game, if Nebraska had a better secondary, kind of like, I don't know, the one in South Bend, he would have had more interceptions that game because I'm telling you, when he gets pressure in his face, he will just throw up the football. He will. So I could see it. They get down far enough where they put in the more experienced guy and, just, yeah, I mean, stuff. I'll buy it. Why not?
I'll buy it just because I think the game will be out of reach and they'll put their second team in and Miller Moss is the second quarterback. So,
True.
Yeah,
there you go.
Bought. The buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame takes home the jeweled shillelagh.
Hard buy.
It's a buy. It's going to be a heck of a trip for that trophy. It's going to travel out there from South Bend and then back.
Yeah,
so
they might as well just keep it on the plane. I'm calling my shot.
Yeah, absolutely. They can be like, oops, sorry, we forgot to bring it. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter. It's going to stay where it is.
Yeah, if for whatever reason they lose, they'll prime it to them. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
Now they're a rival. They'll get standard shipping. Buy, sell, hold from Traverse City, ND. With all of the chaos that has ensued, would Notre Dame actually sneak into the playoffs if they finish 10-2?
There would have to be more chaos. The chaos in the past will not matter. They would need chaos in the future. And so I will sell that because I think they would need a lot of chaos. There would have to be a few different chaotic situations to happen above them for them to sneak in at 10-2.
It would have to be the level of chaos that like IU experienced when they lost and still remain in the top 10. Like it would have to be something like that. Like if Notre Dame loses to USC, because that's now the only way that they go 10-2, like they would need, Georgia to lose to Georgia Tech, IU to lose to Purdue. They would need Tennessee to lose to Vanderbilt. I mean, there would have to be a lot to happen. And then even then, I don't know what they would do.
They don't deserve to be in if they lose. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't even be comfortable making the argument unless a ton of teams ahead of them lost.
Fair enough.
I just wouldn't. They don't belong in if they lose. Yeah. So this is a win and you're in, losing you're out, in my opinion.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, so sell for me, for sure.
Yep, I'm with that. Also sell. Another buy, sell, hold. A 3-loss SEC team makes the playoff. I'm thinking Alabama, depending on what the committee does tonight.
Obviously, the question came in yesterday, so we didn't know what the committee was going to do. Committee put Alabama, I believe, at 13. I'm selling. I don't think a 3-loss SEC team makes it into the playoff unless it's Georgia who loses in the championship game, the SEC championship game, and even then, I think it would be a bit of a stretch. But that's the only way.
I'm in the same boat.
Again, pending chaos. Like everything we say here, it's like pending chaos. But like, it's true, right? I mean, we're looking at it as it sits right now, and the way it sits right now, no 3-loss SEC teams getting in.
Yeah, in the fine print, everything is pending chaos.
Right, exactly.
Who knows?
More from Traverse City, ND. Buy, sell, hold. The NIU game was the turning point in Freeman's career, similar to the Louisiana Monroe game for Saban.
I like where the head's at. I'll hope by this one. I'm more erring on the side of hold. Like what he's done the rest of the season has been spectacular. I kind of need to see it next year too, because I thought after the Louisville loss that was kind of over and behind them, and then they lost to Clemson, who was down 8 starters, and then they beat Texas A&M this year, and I was like, all right, who's stopping this team? And apparently a week later it was a MAC team. So I need to see it next year as well, but off to a good start.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this already. I'll buy it for now.
Yep.
Come talk to me again when Freeman has the same amount of national titles as Saban. So, turning point for Freeman could be a lot different than a turning point for Saban. So,
the Big 12 gets left out of the playoff with Boise and Tulane taking 2 of the 5 auto bids. Buy, sell, hold.
That's a sell.
Yeah.
And yes, right now it looks like that could be a possibility, but here's the problem with this scenario. The Big 12 championship game is going to be a game between 2 top 20 teams. I don't believe that will be the case in the AAC because Army just fell out. They're not ranked anymore. And so and Army doesn't play any more games until the championship game. So they're not going to be in. And the Big 12, whoever wins that game is going to get a boost based on a top 20 win, and they will leapfrog Tulane or stay ahead of Tulane, and that will not be the case. So I'm going to sell this.
I'm with that.
Trevor City ND. Buy, sell, hold. ND will buck the trend of close games in LA and close games for USC this season and win by 14 plus.
I'll buy that.
I do think it's going to be a 2-score game as well, and it's not a touchdown and a field goal because I don't want them kicking field goals. So I think it'll be 2 touchdowns. So yeah, I'll take that one. Bye.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Notre Dame is going to be. I mean, yes, they've had a lot of 1-score games, but I mean, if I look at this, I think Notre Dame is better than Minnesota, better than Michigan, better than Penn State, better than Maryland, better than Washington. Definite buy. Definite buy.
Buy, sell, hold. Georgia will win the SEC championship against Texas and then lose their first playoff game against Texas.
I'm going to sell that because not because I don't think Georgia isn't capable of winning the SEC. Just I don't think the committee is going to match up back-to-back games for them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to try to avoid that at all cost.
Agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that's how it would play out. So I'll sell it from that standpoint.
A lot of stuff is going to have to go right for them to be paired up in this thing. So if Georgia wins the SEC championship, they're going to get a first-round bye. But what seed are they going to get? Are they going to get leaped by like a Miami, for example? And that would put the SEC in either the 3 or the 4 spot for the automatic. And then that means that Texas would have to fall to either the 6-11 game or the 12-5 game. I don't think they're going to fall to the 12-5 game. The 6-11 game is a possibility. So if Georgia's the 3 and then Texas is the 6, then I guess they could see each other again. But you're right. I think they will avoid that at all costs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see a scenario where that plays out. I mean, most likely if Georgia wins the SEC championship, they're getting the 3 seed because Miami's already ranked ahead of Georgia.
Right.
And if Miami wins out and wins the ACC, they would logically get the 2 seed because it's not going to be the Big 12.
Correct. And it's not going to be the group of 5.
Right.
So, yeah, I agree. They'd probably be the 3, which means Texas would have to be the 6, which is possible. I mean, we were just talking about the fact that if Georgia played Texas and Texas would, where would they end up? Because that would be their second loss.
Yeah.
Where do they end up? I think 6 might be high, to be perfectly honest with you, for a 2-loss SEC team. But you never know.
Buy, sell, hold from BFast. There are 3 cornerbacks on the current roster who will eventually be drafted in the first 2 rounds of the NFL, including Benjamin Morrison.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a buy. I think, I'm sure that they're referring to Leonard Moore, Christian Gray, Benjamin Morrison. Honestly, a lot of this ties into whether Benjamin Morrison will be healthy enough to go through combine type stuff. I still think he would go in the first 2 rounds regardless. And I think the other 2 are projecting in that direction. So I will buy it.
Yeah, I'll buy it, especially since you said the first 2 rounds. If it was just the first round, I was going to sell it because it's not even a lock that Ben Morrison's going to go in the first round because of what happened this year. But, I mean, in day 1 or 2, yeah, Christian Gray, Leonard Moore, and BMO are all very capable of going in day 1 or 2. So I'll buy that as well.
BK's personal chef taking some time out from LSU and making some food to put in a buy, sell, hold. Appreciate it very much. This Saturday, 4 out of the 6 or more of the selected Jays on offense do the following: Faison, 20+ yards; Greathouse, 1 touchdown catch; Thomas, 1 third down catch or major block that saves a 3rd or 4th down conversion; Harrison, 20+ yards; Price, 6+ yards a carry; and Love, 2 touchdowns.
I mean, I'll buy the fact that this might be 6 for 6 because I think you just listed out the things that they've done in their last 4 games.
I agree. This is one hell of a parlay right here, and I think I'd be on board with all of it.
I was about to say, I think, I mean, if I can put those in for that specific of player props, I think I would, using my bookie. But I would buy 6 for 6. I'm especially buying 4 for 6. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not even sure which two I would take out, to be perfectly honest with you. So yeah, that's a big time buy for me as well.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, another one from BK's personal chef. Buy, sell, hold this Saturday. 3 out of the 5 or more of the selected Jays on defense do the following: Snead has 1 or more sacks and celebrates like a man possessed. Osbury makes another one of his almost signature beautiful open field tackles. Kaiser has 5+ tackles. Junior Tuialamaka has either a sack, forced fumble, or game-defining 3rd or 4th down stop. Burnham has an interception, forced fumble, or a sack.
Yeah, 3 out of the 5 I'm buying. I mean, yeah, I'm going to be interested to see what their pass rush package looks like on 3rd down, especially because Kingston's out. So Jalen Snead could step into that role. Who am I forgetting about? Preston Zinter could step into that role. See what happens there.
Or they may just eliminate the role completely and just have a
Yeah.
4-man rotation. I mean, that's a definite possibility too.
Very true. I absolutely buy that Osbury could make another one of his signature open field tackles, especially against these skilled receivers, man. Like, look, USC's receivers are very shifty, especially Zachariah Branch and Jacoby Lane. Like they are 2 guys that can make people miss in the open field. I think Osbury makes a good tackle there. 3 out of the 5, absolutely. Once again, I might even be willing to go 5 of 5. This one's a little bit more tough because, like, I don't know if Burnham would have an interception. I could see maybe a forced fumble on a strip sack. Yeah, I'll definitely buy 3 of 5.
I will definitely buy 3 out of 5. I was trying to come up with what I would eliminate to just get to 3. I was ready to eliminate the Burnham one because I don't think he's going to get an interception, but the other 2 are definitely a possibility. A forced fumble or a sack. That's absolutely, like I said, they're going to harass the quarterback for USC a lot. So yeah, this is a buy for me. I'll definitely take 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm with that. Buy, sell, hold from Irish BS. With a win against USC this weekend, Notre Dame would make the college football playoff if it was still the 4-team playoff system.
Ooh, man.
So
we got to look at this a whole different way now.
So that if it was the 4-team playoff system, because we got to think now, because that means that the conference championship week would weigh a lot heavier.
Yeah.
Right. And it also hangs in the balance of if the committee would finally be willing to put Notre Dame above Penn State. Because barring a crazy upset with Oregon and Ohio State this weekend, Penn State's not playing in the Big Ten championship, right?
Correct.
So, it would depend. I mean, I think you would have to then root for Georgia to beat Texas in the SEC championship if Notre Dame doesn't pass Penn State. I think that's the scenario because like I said before, I have my feelings about what the committee's going to do with Penn State, and they haven't shown me that they're going to move Notre Dame above Penn State. Like, yes, I know that the gap has been closed, but I don't know if Notre Dame inching closer to Penn State was due to the fact of Notre Dame winning or IU losing. So I guess you could say both would be true. This is tough. I'm going to sell it. They would go and play in a New Year's Six Bowl, but I think I'm going to sell it because I don't know if Georgia's going to beat Texas in the SEC championship. And especially because it's really hard to beat the same team twice in a season, and Georgia and Texas have already played. So, and then I just don't know what the committee is going to do with Penn State. So for those reasons, I am selling.
Notre Dame's sitting at 5 right now. We know for a fact that Oregon and Ohio State are going to play each other.
Oh, jeez.
Come on
now. Jeez. When you edit this, can you just like cut out my...
It was great. No, you did. Everything you said held good logic to it. I just feel like, one of those 2 teams is going to lose. And if it's Ohio State, which is a possibility, then I think Notre Dame just bumps up into the 4th spot and, they're playing Oregon. I think that's the possibility that would happen. So, yeah, I think I'll buy it. What the heck? Right. And again, pending chaos, obviously, but I will absolutely buy it.
Yeah. I think the Big Ten championship would be interesting because it would depend on who wins. If Ohio State wins, I think you have that scenario in like the years where both Bama and Georgia made it.
Right.
Like it'd be identical.
And would they want 3 Big Ten teams in there?
Right.
That's the question. 3 Big Ten teams and a 4-team playoff.
I mean,
I don't know.
If the chair is still the active athletic director at Michigan, probably.
Well, good call there. Yeah, good call. Good call.
But I completely forgot about the Big Ten championship. Good Lord. Oh, my goodness.
McGrain's 30. Thanks for no, it's not a super chat. Buy, sell, hold. If all running backs on the roster return next season, Notre Dame will have a top 5 running back room in the country, and they will get recognition from national media. Look, they got a top 5 running back room in the country now, and if they return, then yes, absolutely they will. All of the above. So that's a buy for me.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Absolute buy, because they have one right now.
Mm-hmm.
Question is if they're going to get the recognition from the national media. That, who knows?
And I could care less, to be perfectly honest with you. No. The bottom line is they will have a top 5 running back room.
No. I mean, Notre Dame could win the national championship this year and not get recognition from the national media.
Right, exactly.
Buy, sell, hold from K. Great. Notre Dame jumps Penn State in the college football playoff rankings if we beat USC by 2 touchdowns.
I'll buy it because I'm saying that that's what's going to happen. It's a tentative buy though, because I don't trust the committee. So, but it's a buy. It's a buy for me. They should have done it this week. I think if that happens, then they do it next week.
I'll hope by this one, man, just because I don't, you know what? It's holiday week. It's Thanksgiving. Notre Dame plays arch rival USC on Saturday. I don't want to be negative. So, you guys know my thoughts on what I think of the committee, but I'll hope by it.
Yeah.
I'll hope by it.
Mag Champ 1, buy, sell, hold. We will get the best USC team that has played this season. This is USC's Super Bowl.
I'll buy the fact that it's their Super Bowl because, I mean, it's like whenever a team plays Notre Dame, it's their Super Bowl.
Yep.
I mean, we were Northern Illinois Super Bowl. We were Louisville Super Bowl. We were Georgia Tech. I mean, you could just go down the list. But like the best, to be honest, like I think their best was when they took Penn State down to the wire. So yeah, I'll sell it. I don't know if we get their best. I mean, they're already bowl eligible, but like they're going to be going to the Idaho Potato Bowl. So
yeah, this one's tough for me. I just, again, with the transfer portal and so many, like, do they care about the Notre Dame game like the way that guys that have been at USC for 4 years care about the Notre Dame game? I don't know if that's the case. Does Lincoln Riley care about the Notre Dame game the way that past USC coaches have cared about the Notre Dame game? I don't know. I don't know. I watched them play against UCLA, which is supposed to be a bigger rival for them than Notre Dame, and I was not that impressed by their performance.
Yeah.
So why is that not a big game? And they played not great. So I don't know. I wasn't that impressed. So I guess I'll sell it because I don't know that they even feel that this is their biggest game.
Yeah. I mean,
well played.
Thank you. I mean, you could make the argument that, it was their biggest game last year. They were undefeated and ranked 10th in the country, and they lost by 28 points with Caleb Williams, who was walking out the team. Not that matters. But, yeah, just not a good USC team this year, man. I think they are better than what – I'm trying to think of how to put this. I do think that they are better than what their record, indicates. I don't think that they're awful. This is still a team that Notre Dame has to prepare for because they are very skilled and talented at certain positions. But even if USC comes in and plays their best and it's their Super Bowl and they channel all the right energy and then Caleb Williams walks them out, Reggie Bush is on the sideline and Matt Leinert's in the press box and Pete Carroll's in the stands.
They can't play.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
They can't play 1 and 2. USC's best is not as good as Notre Dame's best.
Yeah,
it's not. I've seen Notre Dame play at their best this season, and I don't know if there's a team in the country that they couldn't compete with when they're at their best. And believe me, USC is well within that category.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just, for any team, I don't care who walks you out of the tunnel. I don't. I just don't care. Last time I checked, USC sells to fans the opportunity to walk the team out of the tunnel or run out of the tunnel with USC. Okay, everything's for sale is what that means. And so I don't think whoever walks out of the tunnel with them is going to make any bit of difference. I just don't. Yeah. So that's great for them. That's great for them. I'm a Bears fan. Okay. So Caleb Williams is him walking him out of tunnel doesn't do anything for me. That's for sure. So, because he hasn't done anything for me yet.
Do the Bears have a bye week, or do they play on?
They play on Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay. I was about to say. I was like,
yeah, they play the Lions tomorrow, and that's going to be an epic beatdown. So it's going to be so much fun to watch.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So, another one from MagChamp1: buy, sell, hold. If Notre Dame does what we all believe they have the capability of doing, making a CFP run, Marcus Freeman gets a huge extension to stay in South Bend for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. I think it depends on how deep they go into the playoff for him to get a huge extension. But I think a win or two, in the playoffs is warranted for an extension.
I think he gets an extension regardless. It just depends on how big is it going to be. So they used huge in capital letters in this question. So I'll buy that because it's going to be, if they make a run, it'll be huge, that kind of a thing. Yeah. That's fine. It won't be a Kurt Cignetti, extension. It won't be a Charlie Weiss extension. And I don't want it to be. Sure. I don't want them to put that kind of time frame on it. I really don't. Like a 4-year extension, cool. Let's roll with that. Not an 8, not a 10, nothing like that. But he's going to get an extension regardless, I think, at the end of this year, based on what they're doing.
Yep, I'm with that. Buy, sell, hold from Joe Allen 72. The committee will put in a 3-loss SEC team in the playoffs over a 2-loss Miami or SMU.
No. Well, okay, hold on. Let me back up. So this is saying that a 2-loss Miami, so Miami has to lose to either Syracuse and or SMU, I guess. Oh, are they saying that they're okay?
Or they're saying if Miami and SMU play in the conference championship and one of them loses, they will put in a 3-loss SEC team.
Well, one of them obviously is going to lose because they're both playing each other. So this is where we're going to find out if the committee is telling the truth, because both of those teams are going to be in the playoff going into that game. Is one of them going to be punished for losing that game? This is where we're going to find out. I think they love the SEC. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think that if, let's say SMU loses that game, I think they flip-flop with Clemson. All right, I should say Clemson takes their spot and SMU would fall out, but it's not going to be enough to pump into an 8-3 team.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to buy this one because Georgia's already ranked ahead of SMU. And I think that if Georgia loses to Texas in the SEC championship and is 9-3 and loses, and SMU is ranked 9th and loses in the ACC championship, I think then they would just keep in Georgia because they're already ranked above.
Great call.
So in that scenario, I will buy it, but I don't buy it in that, Miami or SMU loses and then they put in Alabama.
So I was looking at it at the current 3-loss teams. That's what I was looking at it. So, but you're absolutely right. If it's Georgia, yeah, Georgia's in for sure. Yeah.
Another buy, sell, hold. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, okay. Yep. Joe Allen 72, buy, sell, hold. Even though not a home playoff game, if Notre Dame would get bumped down to the 11th or 12th seed, this also would be an easier route than being the 7 through 10 seed based on who they potentially would have to play in their second game if they won the first playoff game.
Sell. I don't know if I would want Notre Dame's first. I mean, look, if they get the 12th seed, I don't know if I want Notre Dame's first playoff game to potentially be at night in the Horseshoe. I just don't.
Could they win that game? Sure. But I don't want that to be the opening game. I don't care what anybody says.
Right. Or, I mean, if, let's say Texas loses and they get the 6th seed Texas loses the SEC championship and Notre Dame's the 11th seed. I don't know if I would want Notre Dame's first playoff game to also be down at Texas. I don't think it's going to be easier than having a home playoff game if you're the 7th or the 8th seed because of who you might have. Like, look, you're going to have to play a good team in the second round anyways.
Correct.
Like, you're playing a team that's getting a bye that won their conference. So, like, again, this kind of goes back to what Brian talks about all the time of like I don't want to try to find this path of least resistance. If you're going to win a national championship, at some point you are most likely going to have to beat an Alabama, or you're most likely going to have to beat an Oregon, an Ohio State, a Texas, a Georgia. Not all teams are going to get what the Ohio State draw was based on like the last graphic that came out where they have to play Arizona State and then they have to play Boise State and then they're going to play the winner of Penn State and Georgia. Like, I don't see that happening. So, right. That's for me. I'm going to sell it.
Yeah, it's a sell for me just from the first part of the sentence, even though it would not be a home playoff game. Home playoff game is huge. That's absolutely huge. Like I said much earlier in the show, I'm not afraid of anybody if I'm Notre Dame. So going, to a neutral site in the second round, I don't care who they play. Doesn't matter to me. Is there an easier path? Yeah, sure. If you're going to face off against the 3 or the 4. But if Notre Dame gets the 6, then they're fine. They're already going up against the 3. So I would rather trade all of the extra words in here for having a playoff game.
Yeah.
A home playoff game, excuse me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with that. Buy, sell, hold from Mr. Emil Wagner. We as Notre Dame fans are negative because we have been conditioned to expect the worst over the years, and we just don't know how to expect the reality that this team is a championship level team.
It's a massive buy. Massive buy. The PTSD, maybe that's not a great term for it. I don't know. But yes, completely agree with you. Look, Notre Dame hasn't won a national championship since '88. I was 7 years old. Everything else has been disappointment. So, yeah, absolutely. Huge buy. Huge buy.
Yeah, I'll absolutely buy that. I mean, in my lifetime, I have not seen them win a national championship or a New Year's Six bowl. So, yeah, I'll buy that. Yeah, leave it at that. I'll buy it.
Go ahead.
Another buy, sell, hold from Mr. Emil Wagner. With the list of Hall of Fame candidates released, Eli Manning is a Hall of Fame player.
I mean, I think Eli Manning belongs in the Hall of Fame based on his career and winning 2 Super Bowls over Tom Brady. Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. I have no problem with that.
Yeah. Hall of Fame candidate, absolutely. First ballot, there are some people that believe that Eli Manning wholeheartedly should not even be in the Hall of Fame. To me, the ultimate goal of playing in the NFL is to win a Super Bowl. And he did that twice, once over the 07 Patriots, who were undefeated going into that game. I mean, as much as people hate to hear, and this is not me claiming that he is better than any of these players, but to me, like I said, the ultimate goal of playing in the NFL is winning a Super Bowl, and he has one more than Aaron Rodgers does, who is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So, I think he deserves to be in there. I know a lot of the conversation is, well, his defense won him the Super Bowls. It's like, agreed, but you're going to tell me that Peyton Manning's Super Bowl that he won with the Broncos wasn't at the heels of his defense? So should Peyton Manning not be in the Hall of Fame? So I think he should be in. I don't think he should be a first ballot, but I think he should be in.
Let's see here. Buy, sell, hold. With the play of the secondary this year, Notre Dame will win the recruitment of R.J. Sermons despite being a USC legacy. I know Ryan Roberts is in the chat. Ryan, why don't you jump in on this as well? But Trevor, if you have some knowledge on this, be my guest. I know nothing about recruiting.
This one I'm not sure about. With the play of the secondary this year, Notre Dame. I mean, I would buy the fact that with the play of the secondary, Notre Dame is in the wheelhouse of getting RJ Sermons. But I don't know if he's committed to USC already. I don't know if this is going to be a flip. I'm sorry, I just don't, as far of a recruiting standpoint. Okay, there we go. Ryan Roberts. Yes.
Ryan says they have a shot at Sermons for sure. Look, I understand that being a USC legacy. I also understand that Notre Dame and USC are rivals. I get all of that. Believe me, I do. But I also understand that Notre Dame has the number 1 passing efficiency team, defense in the country, and their reputation speaks for itself. So if you want to go to a team that the secondary is elite and you want to be developed into an elite member of a secondary, then Notre Dame's where you go. And that would be my recruiting pitch to him. So I don't even know who this guy is, but that would be my recruiting pitch. So there you go. There you go.
Perfect.
JGY Town. Buy, sell, hold. Riley Leonard will throw for 300 yards against USC. Holy crap on a stick. Huge sell. No chance. Zero chance. But that's not how you're going to get the best of Riley Leonard either. So I don't even want that to be in his wheelhouse of thought process or Mike Denbrock's. If Mike Denbrock, and I know this is not the case, but if Mike Denbrock goes into the USC game thinking, man, the way we're going to win this game is Riley's going to sit in the pocket and pick these boys apart. He's going to go for 350 and 4 tutties. It's just not going to happen. Like, that's not who Riley Leonard is, and it's not who you want him to be.
I'm going to sell it because if Riley Leonard throws for 300 yards against USC, I think it's more out of necessity.
Yeah, and that would be bad news if you're.
If you go back through and you look at what Riley's done this year, Notre Dame won by 35 against Army, and he had 148 passing yards. They won by 21 against Virginia. He had 214. They beat Florida State by 49. He had 215. They beat Navy by 37. He had 178. If he passes for 300 yards, it's because they're down. I don't think the game plan is, hey, despite us being a run-first football team and us having Jeremiah Love and Jadari and Price and Riley, you're a dual threat guy as well. We think we're going to have you throw the ball 42 times this year.
It just sounds ridiculous coming out of your mouth, by the way.
Yeah. I know. So I'm going to sell it. Now, if, again, like I said, with the 250 and 100-yard question, if he does have that on the flip side of the coin, maybe Notre Dame just won by 60 points. I don't know, man. But most likely, if he has to throw for 300 yards, they're behind and it's out of necessity. So I'm going to sell that.
Yowzers. All right, buy, sell, hold. The SEC will only get 3 teams in the playoffs.
I'll buy that. I mean, the winner of Texas, Georgia, and the SEC championship will get in. And if it's, I could see a scenario where Georgia, if they lose a close game, stay in. Tennessee's not going to play in the SEC championship. So as long as they finish 10-2, I could see them getting in as like an 11 seed, So I can see it. I mean, I'll buy it because I think instead of they will only get 3 teams, I think that's like the max. It's not going to be Bama or Ole Miss, and I don't think it's going to be South Carolina either. So, I'll buy that.
Yeah, this one, this time last week it was a sell. This week it's a buy. What Alabama and Ole Miss did last week was embarrassing for both of their schools, and now they don't have a shot of getting in. So I think they went from a chance. They went from 5 SEC teams having a shot to probably 3, just like that. And I think they're probably out.
Yeah, I agree. Ole Miss and Iowa State are going to duke it out in the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
Somebody's going to get mayo poured on them. Good luck with that.
I hope it's Lane Kiffin.
No, that would be so fantastic. I would throw the game at that point.
Yeah. Oh, if you're Iowa State, it's like just to have the satisfaction. Oh, that's so good. Buy, sell, hold from B Crow 214. Notre Dame's offense will fix their third down conversion rate this weekend against USC, since this is one of the better parts of USC's defense and one of issues for our offense this year.
I mean, that was a disturbing trend there for a while, the third down conversions and stuff for Notre Dame. I agree. I think they will get that cleaned up. They're going to have to, because they're going to have to be more efficient. And look, unless Notre Dame is just super efficient on first and second down and they're not getting to third down, they're going to need to get that cleaned up. So I will buy that.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I mean, I've been very bullish about having a successful third down conversion rate is not because you're great at converting 3rd and 12. It's because you stay in front of the sticks and you put yourself in favorable positions, right?
Bingo.
So the reason why their third down conversion percentage was so bad against Virginia is because, because of all of the all of the penalties that went on during the game, and Notre Dame's putting themselves at 1st and 20 and 2nd and 13. And like, that's just not a favorable matchup for their style of offense. Really, it's not a favorable matchup for any style of offense. But, I think that they stay in front of the sticks. Like this USC's defense, I think Notre Dame's run game is going to be able to gash. So I think that they will be in a lot of 3rd and manageables because, one big thing that they have going for them is they do have a dual threat quarterback in Riley Leonard and 3rd and short. I mean, even some 3rd and mediums, Riley's able to pick up with his legs, but it's unrealistic to be like, all right, Riley, it's 3rd and 13. Go make a play. I mean, that's just now it will be interesting to see what it's going to be with their 4th down conversion rate. Cause I have no idea what the state of the union is for their kicking game. So they might be going for it a good amount on 3rd down if they're anywhere outside of the 20-yard line, but who knows? So who knows? But I do think it will improve. I do.
Irish for life, 99. Buy, sell, hold. Michigan pulls the miracle upset, and Notre Dame gets the 5th seed.
Sell.
That's a huge sell. Michigan's terrible.
Yeah. Major.
This is finally Ryan Day's opportunity to win this game. I'll just say that.
Yeah. No, big sell.
I'm not even gonna read this last part because I can't say those words together.
Yeah, I'm just gonna sell it for that being typed out on the computer.
Yeah, it's a huge sell. Can't say it. Not gonna say it, regardless of whether I'm pulling for them or not. I will not say those words.
Yep.
So
I agree, but appreciate the submission, Irish.
Yeah, sure do. Wolfgang, buy, sell, hold. Sorry. If Notre Dame takes care of USC, would you rather play a top brand in the first round or just anyone?
I mean, I don't look. I don't want Notre Dame to take the path of least resistance, but would I want them to play Ohio State in the first round? Like, I wouldn't love the idea of that, but like, I mean, look, we're Notre Dame. You know, like you should be welcoming to play anybody, especially if it's going to be in South Bend.
Mm-hmm.
That's so. Would I rather play a top brand in the first round or just anyone? I'll err on the side of just anyone because that also includes
the top brands. Yep.
So I guess I'll err on the side of just anyone because Notre Dame, the way that they're playing this year, I think they can compete with anybody in the country. So that's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. I will agree with anyone. I don't care. You're in. You're playing at home. You have an opportunity to make a run. I don't care who you're playing. Bring them on. Middle of December. Night game at Notre Dame because that's probably what it's going to end up being. Let's go. I don't really care who they play. I really don't. And it like obviously this game is down the road. I'm going to be at the game. I would love to have a good game, but at this point, to be honest with you, I want blowouts, man. I want Notre Dame to blow out everybody. I don't want anything close. I want them to blow everybody out. So I just don't care who they play. I really don't. I don't think, to be honest with you, if Notre Dame can somehow figure out how to win a national championship at some point in my lifetime, right? Or in the near future, if they can somehow figure it out, I don't care who they beat to get there. I really don't. And I know that's not how everybody else feels. Some people want to beat, they want a string of like Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia, and they want to beat them all. Like, I don't care. I just want a t-shirt that says Notre Dame national champions, and I'm going to take a picture on the field, a little selfie action. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care who they beat. I just want them to win. I don't care. I really don't.
Listen, I get that. I mean, Notre Dame or Michigan had a cheating scandal last year and won the national championship.
Right. And ask a Michigan fan.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Like it would be fantastic for me in my lifetime to go from not seeing a New Year's Six bowl win to a national championship. That would be nuts.
Yep. That
would be nuts. But yeah, I'm with you. I just want Notre Dame to win a national championship. That would make it a good year. Yeah. Buy, sell, hold from Dorn 10. Notre Dame has been keeping things simple on offense the last few weeks and have lots of different looks they still haven't shown. Keeping more creative looks for the playoffs.
I'm just going to sell it because I don't think Denbrock has been like hiding stuff. I just think this has been the natural progression and process of what this offense is and what he wants to do. Now, could it be a more wide open situation once they get into the playoffs and things like that? Sure. but I think it'll be a combination of things that we've already seen. It's just they'll all be together at that point. So I'm going to sell it.
Yeah, I've said it a lot. I'm not going to hammer too hard on this one. It's just, I don't think Mike Denbrock just has a secret playbook that he's just waiting to bring out for postseason. I don't. It's just, this is the natural progression of an offense that lost their left tackle at the start of the season, had a starting quarterback that transferred in his first year in a new system that didn't get to practice in the spring, and 2 of your 3 starting wide receivers are transfers, and your starting tight end was coming back off of an ACL injury. That's why this offense was the way that it was back in September, not because Mike Denbrock has this secret golden playbook hidden away in his coach's locker for whenever they get a home playoff game. I think if he had that, he would have broken it out against Northern Illinois so they didn't lose to a MAC team on September 7th. It's just me. But no, I sell that.
Irishman 71-14, buy, sell, hold. Half the top 4 seeds get upset in the second round of the playoff. This is a tough one because we don't know who those teams are.
Yeah. It's kind of a cop-out answer, but I'll hold just because I have no idea who that matchup is. I mean,
you know what? Continue your thought. Sorry.
No, I'm looking at the rankings right now, and if it goes the way that I think that it goes, Ohio State will have a bye, Texas will have a bye, Miami will have a bye, and now at this point, it's probably going to be Boise State with the bye. Yeah, I could see Boise State and Miami getting upset in the second round.
Me too.
So, okay, and I'll switch it up. I'll buy that.
Yeah. Based on today's rankings, I will buy it because I think there's a very good possibility that Miami and Boise both lose.
Yeah.
So I'll buy it.
Yeah. I mean, like there's a good chance that, Oregon is going to play Miami in the second round, or Notre Dame is going to go play Boise State in the second round, depending on how that would fall. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'd buy that.
Buy, sell, hold. The SEC world goes into full meltdown when A&M, Vandy, and Georgia Tech win this weekend, making the SEC championship game a battle of 3 loss teams.
Yeah, I mean,
so the bye would mean you're saying all 3 of those upsets happen.
Yeah, no, I'm going to sell that the upsets happen. I will buy that the SEC world will go into full meltdown.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I think if that happens, I think the committee is going to have to reevaluate automatic bids, because I don't think a team with 3 losses should be getting on automatic bid, regardless of if they win their conference or not. I would put in whoever lost the Big Ten championship over who won the SEC if they had 3 losses, in my opinion. But it is what it is, because I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, I sell it.
Yeah, I'll sell it on the premise that all 3 of those teams are going to win, but I'll buy on the premise that SEC would melt down.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it, and it would be kind of fun to watch, to be honest.
Agreed. Buy, sell, hold from Ham Sartman. I like that. That's funny. That's good. Dylan McCullough will be a head football coach in 2025.
Ooh, man. It's a little early because we don't know who all the openings are going to be at this point. I don't think he interviewed for a head coaching job last year, right? That was Al Washington that interviewed. I'm going to sell it. I don't think he's going anywhere after this year. I'll be Mr. Positive and I'll sell it.
I'm with you. I'm going to hope sell it. I would love for this same coaching staff to come back. Now, whether that's going to happen or not, I have no idea, but I would love it.
I love that. Hope sell. That's a good term. I like that.
Thank you.
Tom Frawley. Buy, sell, hold. Mike Denbrock will further open up the playbook versus USC, showing more 21 personnel threats to the USC defense. In doing so, I foresee Love and Price catching more bubble screen passes and possibly wheel routes to burn the Trojans' 4-5-2 defense. I also see Denbrock continue to expand the playbook in the impending playoff. There's a lot there.
So, yeah, I mean, look, if I'm going to work my way backwards on this, I have talked today ad nauseum about Denbrock and his secret playoff playbook. So I'm not going to go there. I would love to see more 21 personnel with Love and Price specifically. Yeah, I will say, if there is something that like Mike Denbrock, I think might do a little bit more of in the playoffs, is more 21 personnel with Love and Price on the field at the same time. But he has done that this year, just not as much. So I'll buy it, and I'll buy it, but for the 21 personnel. But I'm not in on the secret playbook or a 4-5-2 defense.
Yeah. I'm also not in on the more bubble screens for Love and Price. I think they will do some screens with the wide receivers, get those guys into space, things like that. I'm wondering if it was a typo, the 4-5-2, because it's probably supposed to be a 4-2-5, I'm guessing. I'm selling some of this. I'm buying some of this. So I guess overall it would have to be a sell. I also agree that there is no special playbook for the playoffs. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I'm with that. Buy, sell, hold from Irish fans since 1984. Due to the recent kicker struggles, Notre Dame will look at the high school level and concentrate more on developing a kicker instead of going to the portal. Is Notre Dame looking at any local kickers, i.e. Vince's son, Dylan, or the DeFreitas kid from Northwood?
So I'll take the last part first. No is the answer. The DeFreitas kid is unbelievable. He's an All-American. He's going to be kicking at the Under Armour All-American game. Wow. He's amazing. He's really, really good. I mean, he had a 62-yarder in a game against for Northwood. Yeah, I mean, the kid's amazing. Dylan's a better punter than he is a kicker, but that's a different conversation. So, but long story short, I don't believe that they are. The DeFreitas kid has been going all over the country to schools and visiting them, and Notre Dame's not one of them. And Notre Dame's in their backyard. So he's been to Michigan, he's been to Ohio State, he's been to Texas A&M, he's been to Middle Tennessee State. He's been all over, and Notre Dame hasn't been one of them. So I don't think that they're looking locally. I really don't. So we'll see what happens there. But I think they have made it very clear. Because I have been going, I've been attending but not participating in the special teams camps that Notre Dame holds, and he basically flat out said we're portal people for kickers. So they will continue to hit the portal for kickers. I don't see that changing anytime soon. So if Dylan's going to kick for the Irish, it'll be in like 3 years. So just hold your breath on that one. But yeah, they're going to portal for kickers. So I'm not saying I agree with that, but they want somebody that has proven themselves in games. And that's why they went and got Mitch Jeter, because he proved himself in the SEC. Now he's injured, and they got no backups, unfortunately. They have two guys that are walk-ons who had pretty solid accolades, by the way, coming out of high school. Like the one kid, the Rocco Diamidi, or I forget if that's his first name or not. But anyway, he was a 5-star kicker coming out of high school. And he's the third-string kicker at Notre Dame. And, they had their accolades. So, they decided to walk on Notre Dame as opposed to go someplace else. So, we'll just have to see how it goes. But I think they're going to hit the portal every year for a kicker.
Then I sell as well.
There you go. Berto, 21-21, buy, sell, hold. SC will not be as motivated and focused for this game based on Riley's comments about ending the Notre Dame rivalry earlier this year. I forgot about that. Along with SC having a below standard season.
I'm going to sell it just for the fact that I think USC does have some players on their team that are going to be looking to play on Sundays. And what's a better way to showcase yourself than playing a Notre Dame team hard, a team that has been referenced of saying that they have NFL caliber talent, they have an NFL level defense, an NFL style of defense. So it's hard for me to predict if players are going to be motivated and focused, because I think some of that is subjective to the players. So I'll sell it just based on that premise. But I mean, I could see it happening. I think it's going to be similar to Florida State, where they might come in a little bit fired up and then they get punched in the mouth and they're like, okay. No, I think it could be a little bit of that.
Yeah, I agree with what you just said about being punched in the mouth. I think they're going to come out fired up. They're going to want to win. Why would they not want to win? I mean, they have no control over what Riley has to say about this rivalry, and I don't think this rivalry is going anywhere anytime soon, and I wouldn't expect it to. So, if anything, I'm a hold here, but it's mostly a sell, I think.
Yeah, look, guys, like when you play football at this level, you're most likely an elite competitor. And you don't like to lose. I mean, I don't play D1 football and I hate losing at things. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's not like this is Florida State, right? They're not coming into this game with one win. Like USC is still going bowling. Like they're still 6-5.
They are.
You know, what better way to end your season by going 7-5, which is what they did last year, and beat Notre Dame. You know, that's just that my take on it. But this isn't like Florida State where they're just like, okay, I mean, what are we playing for here exactly? I mean, they're already bowl eligible and can spoil Notre Dame season. So I think for those reasons alone and the rivalry, I don't want to count them out. Buy, sell, hold from Blue Chip. USC will not be as motivated or focused based on Riley's comments about, okay.
I feel like that's the same card.
Okay. Well, sorry, Blue Chip. If you had another one, I can go through and look real quick, and I'll pull up the other one.
Why don't you do that just so we can? Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, go ahead, Vince.
Wade Garrett, buy, sell, hold. If Michigan were to upset Ohio State, would the committee view Ohio State the same way with 2 losses and no conference championship game, the same way they would view Notre Dame with 1 loss and no conference championship game? Seems like if Notre Dame loses, they're out. If Ohio State loses, they should be out. Or should they be out, is what he's saying. I will sell it. They will not look at Ohio State the same way that they look at Notre Dame. They will always hold Ohio State to a better, I want to say higher standard. They hold Notre Dame to a higher standard than they do Ohio State, because Ohio State is a member of the Big Ten Conference, and they will give them more love. Now, if Ohio State loses to Michigan, they're going to fall behind Notre Dame. So, I mean, they're not going to be treated the same, but I don't think they'll fall out. So if you're saying, like, if Notre Dame loses to USC, they're out. If Ohio State loses to Michigan, they're on the road at the first round, but they're not out. That's the way I see it probably going down.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And then the argument there is just going to be surrounded around the quality of loss. I mean, Notre Dame would have lost to Northern Illinois in a 6-5 USC team, and Ohio State's 2 losses would have been to the number 1 team in the country and to Michigan, which, I mean, it would not be a good loss, but Notre Dame would have 2 bad losses in comparison to theirs, and Ohio State would have more top 10 wins. So like that would be the deciding factor. I did find Blue Chip's submission.
Oh, nice.
So, and I want to make sure that there's none passes. Nope. So this will be the last one. So, Blue Chip, buy, sell, hold. The inconsistency of the Notre Dame field goal kickers may cost Notre Dame a win on Saturday if Notre Dame needs a late kick to win a close game.
They will. No, I'm going to sell it. Number one, it's not going to be a close game. Let me say this. It's not going to be a situation where Notre Dame should need a kick at the end of the game. If that's the case, man, I realize it's win and you're in. It doesn't matter necessarily how you win. I mean, I get all of that, but I would not feel good about the place kicking situation if it comes down to that. I don't think it will. But if it does, I'm very, 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 very nervous about it. It will be Mitch Jeter kicking it. I can guarantee you that much. I hope they don't need like a 50-yarder to win the game. If they do, I mean, that's probably all she wrote. But if they need a short field goal, I have a lot of faith that Mitch Jeter will be just fine to do that. But I also hope at the same time they don't have to rely on any field goals and Mitch Jeter doesn't play at all. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, if Notre Dame has to come down to a field goal to win, more things went wrong than just the kicking game.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. But Vince made it through all the buy, sell, hold submissions.
We did, and we did it right on time too, which is very much appreciated because there's going to be another show coming your guys' way in about an hour and 15 minutes. When myself and Jesse Stiers will be back on IB Nation Sports Talk at 5:00, and it's Mailbag Wednesday. So get your mailbag. You'll have to prepare yourselves for a mailbag and get those mailbag submissions in for Wednesday mailbag on IB Nation Sports Talk. So, go discuss amongst yourselves, take some time, get a snack, and then come on back at 5:00 and we'll do that and a little bit of rapid fire and we'll close out this awesome Wednesday. But thanks everybody for the buy, sell, hold submissions. I mean, we had 48 cards of submissions, which is awesome. I have no idea how that stacks up against what is normally for you guys. I mean, I've seen you guys do like 5-hour shows, so
we typically get a good amount.
Yeah,
we typically get a good amount of submissions. So.
No doubt. Irish for life. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Happy Thanksgiving. Go Irish. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there.
Yes.
Again, we got one more show coming up, but this is it for Trevor. Trevor, this is our first show, just you and me, man, and I think it was awesome.
Yeah, man. No, it was a lot of fun. And hopefully down the road we'll get to do some more shows together. But I love doing buy, sell, holds. It was a lot of fun. Brian and I will be back here on Friday to do keys to victory, game predictions, and all that stuff on Friday.
Yep, 100%. So make sure you guys check that show out. And then Brian and I will be back Friday afternoon, early evening for the Countdown to Kickoff show. So lots of stuff still coming your guys' way. Obviously, we're going to take off tomorrow, spend with our families, and just give thanks for everything. And part of that is IB Nation and everything that you guys are. And so we appreciate you guys very, very much. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you're not going to join us for the show this evening. But for Trevor, I'm Vince, and we will talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown Podcast. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, everybody.